We're ready. It's 7:03. Okay. Good evening, everyone. It's a couple minutes past 7. We're ready to get underway tonight. May 7th, Monday. If I could ask at this time for a roll call, I guess Mrs. Lavoie will start it off on this.
Kerry McGee.
Here.
Deborah Bacon.
Here.
Karen Carlson.
Here.
Glenn Shibley.
Here.
Greg Labasanier.
Here.
Nick Gorham.
Here.
Stephen Delaney.
Here.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Spearman, if you'd be so kind to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. And if you'd just remain standing, please. Say a moment of invocation. Dear Lord, we ask for your blessings here tonight. We also, with Mother's Day approaching Sunday, we ask for blessings for all of our mothers, whether they're here with us or up above, all the mothers we have and all the future mothers that are expecting some new additions this year. Let us be civil and tonight, and let us be cooperative, and let us be successful. This I ask in your name. Amen.
Amen.
And the emergency evacuation plan, please. Thank you, Mr. Spearman. Okay. Before we get underway, I'd like to introduce, for those of you that have not met, our new interim town manager. It is day 6 for Mr. Stephen Delaney. We went through the process of applications for the interim interview process, as you may have read in the Kent County Times, and final interviews, and we all decided that it was the person that would best help Coventry as we're going through this transition of having our last town manager leave only a few weeks ago. And again, Mr. Delaney has hit the ground running. He's met all our directors for the town and is doing very well, working closely with the staff that is guiding him along the way as he learns the ropes. So, Mr. Delaney, welcome, sir. And I've heard nothing but good, and I guess this, again, week two, day 1. So, and tonight will be a little interesting, too. But at this time, we also... I'm going to have Mrs. Deb Lavoie, the deputy town clerk, introduce our new town clerk that started last Wednesday. If you would be so kind.
Hi, I'd like to introduce Joanne Amatrano. She's also a resident of Coventry. I don't have a speech like he does.
And again, if I might add, it was a good interview process. You were involved and part of the interview, and Joanne was the recommended pick, and you sort of agreed. Did you not, Mrs. Lavoie? Okay, very good. Very good. That's good to hear, because, of course, none of us were involved. So good luck, Joanne, and welcome. I know you've been, over 10 years as a resident? Okay, that's what I heard. So, you know the town. Now you'll see it from a little bit different perspective. But I know that you've got the qualifications. We wish you the very, very best. Thank you. All right. So at this time, we'll move right down to agenda item B, resolutions for discussion and/or action. And first, under B, we have number 1, which is adopting the capital, municipal, and school department budgets for fiscal year 2018-2019 for presentation at the Financial Town Meeting, the FTM. So, I guess we will, Mr. Warzika has been very helpful as far as once our finance director, Bob Tebow, left a week ago, and I guess he's on his way down southeast. I heard he was leaving Sunday, so hopefully he's having safe travels. You've been helpful in guiding the statistics and the figures and explaining them as best you can to Mr. Delaney. So I guess I don't know if I start with Mr. Delaney, turn it over to you, sir, and if there's any initial comments before we open up the meeting, or Mr. Warzika. I'm not sure who wants to start.
No, I don't have any specific comments. I mean, we've been doing a lot of catch-up here. Ed's been terrific pulling this all together. Bob left us some tremendous notes and detail, so we're very grateful for his work. So I'm still playing catch-up here, as you can well imagine. So it is before you pretty much what we've had. So.
Okay. And Ed, I guess the process has been past years is that when comments are made, either adding or subtracting to different amounts regarding different departments, you just can plug in the numbers and it changes before us. Is that correct?
It will adjust the tax rate. It'll adjust the values on several examples of properties, so everybody has a good idea of where exactly it's going.
Okay, that's what I understood, and it's good to hear that that hasn't changed. So we have the, as Mr. Waters presented to us, and let me say that it was months working with the budget process, months working with the department heads, meeting with them, hearing their requests, and also finalizing his recommendations, which the entire council have been given. So, in most cases, whatever the department directors had requested, Mr. Waters either agreed to it or actually, in most cases, reduced the amount. Possibly some cases it might have gone up a little bit, but generally it is less than what the directors wanted, if I could start off with that. And so as far as the individual council suggestions, I ask that we all be aware that it's been hashed out. It has been talked about. The directors, and we've had them in front of us too, as we've gone through the budget book for several weeks in a row, covering different departments at different times. So that being said, I guess I open it up to individual comments or questions of the council as we progress along the final budget that we want to accept tonight and pass along to the FTM. So who would like to, Mr. McGee?
Yeah, I've got a couple of points I'd like to make. I don't think we're in a position to appoint a new sewer administrative financial analysis position right now. We don't even have a finance director. We need to get a finance director in place. We need to work on our sewer after our analysis comes back from Cooper Decision. I think it's a little bit early to add a new position at this time. So I'm moving to strike that $88,431 out of the budget. And I'm also looking, I don't know if it's the right time to put a new part-time human resource analysis position into place also. So that would be My math is right, $118,000 less, so I'd like to make those comments. Well, I'm just making a statement right now. I'm not ready for the motion. I'm making some comments from, anybody else has any concerns about it, whatever, any comments? I'll make that motion if there's no.
Well, let me ask, again, for clarification, what department and what code are we talking about? Do we have that, or are you just making a general statement?
It's in the new sewer administrator financial analysis position. I think
890?
It's probably right.
About half is in finance and half is in
Yeah.
and the other one is.
I didn't mark it down that way.
Resources, part-time.
All right. All right.
I mean, I'm just looking for some input from other council members and see what their feelings are on it.
Start.
Well, we're going to need someone, but you're right, possibly the timing's not right as we find ourselves May 7th, and again, I think, if I'm not mistaken, currently interviewing for a financial town director now. So I have to probably agree with you. Not that it's not needed, but probably the timing is not the best. And as far as, again, the assistant and human resources, possibly, again, with the amount of monies that, and possible tax increases we're facing, maybe it's time to just hold off until we get a better handle on this coming the next fiscal year. I know that, again, the position's needed. It was talked about. It was confirmed with the directors and the former town manager. But I can understand your comments, Mr. McGee. Mr. Warzika, did you get those figures there? And
The reduction of the 115,021 total on those two would actually reduce the increase down to 2.81%.
That was 115,012?
021.
That's 012. Oh, 21.
21,
Okay,
sir.
21. All right, I'm sorry. All right, and that's for the both positions?
That is for the two positions
Okay.
combined. The part-time had no benefits attached to it, the full-time did.
So the two individual totals?
The individual, you're looking at 26,590 for the salary and FICA on the part-time position for human resources, and you're looking at 88,431 on the full-time position with FICA and medical added in, which will actually come out of the budget with that. And again, half of each was going on those two, the finance department as well as that new sewer line item that was in there for this one position.
Okay, so the grand total is 115,021 for both the positions. All right. Other suggestions or comments, or Ed, are you
Nope, go right ahead.
are you working on that still, Ed? You let me know if.
Oh, no, I'm ready.
All right,
I was
all
going to
right.
just drop one more cell in here that shows the actual reduction
Okay.
in the rate, how much, in this case, it's like 5.7
All right.
cents.
And again, is there a column on the tax levy itself as opposed to just the tax rate?
The levy is, yeah, we'll be showing the adjustment on the levy right down here,
It's at the bottom,
right up to here. It's over on the bottom.
under that rectangle. Says
I've got a lot going on in this slide, and
Yeah,
that's the
but
problem.
The percentage on the levy,
The percentage on the levy,
the percentage increase.
or-
In other words, we were at 4%.
So at
before-
3.83.
Okay, oh, there it is, okay.
So at
All right,
3.83.
Okay, all right, it was over that one box.
Yep.
I figured it was there. Okay, right.
It's a little far.
It was just out of my view. I couldn't see it on that.
I'll modify this a little bit more for the FTM, so plus it'll be a larger
Okay,
screen.
well, I mean, as long as I know it's there.
Yeah,
all
it
you
is.
can do is
Oh, yeah, it's all on there.
key it over. Good.
Okay.
Carlson?
Yes,
I think she
Mrs.
said she-
Carlson, did you
Thought
have?
She was,
I absolutely agree with Mr. McGee. You don't hear that often, but yes, I do. The other thing is I went through the budget book, and I have to say, though, that I think this year we didn't quite do as well with our budget sessions as we normally do because we tacked on council meetings, and I think we didn't spend as much time as we normally do. We didn't devote whole evenings, so there were still some things that I didn't get for answers, but I think I would like to also eliminate the any non-contractual increases. It's a tough thing to say, and I don't like to do that, but I think if it's not a contractual increase in salary, I don't think we can afford it. I think this is good. God bless you.
Bless you.
I think this is a year of reining it in. You know, we have got so many unknowns coming up. We don't even know. Well, I have a list because there's other things I'd like to cut, but for one, we don't know what Citron Cooperman's going to come back with in their report. We will get a report next Monday, but I don't think it's a final.
It is not.
Okay. The Office of the Auditor General is working on finances for the town. We have now an SRP pension issue that we may need to come up with anywhere from $300,000 or more, and that could change every year as contributions. We have the sewer fund budget, which we haven't really been diving into yet. We have an SRP contract coming up, IBPO police contract that we haven't even really gotten into yet. Haven't had Baxter Dancero come here and do their audit presentation, although the audit is on the website, and if you want to see it, it's on the website. It's available to look at and read. My last general obligation debt service information is pretty old, so I'm not real sure at this point what we've got outstanding in GBO.
I wanted to get you that data today, but I was
Busy.
There was several pieces for tonight that weren't done.
Mike, is your mic on?
Oh, sorry, thank you.
Oh, of all people.
I know. I'm usually loud enough, I don't need it. I wanted to get those numbers for you because I knew you would ask for it, but I had a bunch of other stuff that I was working on that wasn't prepped for tonight that we thought was done when someone left, and it wasn't, so we were forced to do some of that tonight, as well as we've been in meetings all day, interviews.
Yeah, my last update.
I will get you that tomorrow.
August 31st.
I will get you the update by
Okay.
tomorrow.
Okay. And the last issue is, and also I think we need to be really concerned with the intermunicipal contract with West Warwick for the sewers. That needs to be renegotiated. We have a lot of debt with that, and we have a lot of obligation. We are supposed to be at 23%, and I think we're around 10%, right? 10%, Greg?
10% of the 23%.
Of the 23%. So we really need to dive into that contract.
Yeah. You're right.
Yeah.
No
So,
doubt.
again, we've been talking about that for several months, and it hasn't happened yet. So I much as I hate to say it, I think we need to tighten our belts and batten down the hatches. And so I agree with Mr. McGee, and I also, as I said, would like to eliminate any department head and non-contractual salary increases.
Do you have those totals that you're looking at? Because I'm thinking
I
72.
took the 70, well, it was hard because it was by I was trying to do it by page, and normally I get a salary report, and that's another thing I didn't get.
I sent you that Sunday.
No, by department.
Oh, well, the departments were on there.
Yes, but if I looked at the department total, that's not the same as knowing who's contractual and who is not.
I'm new to this.
Yeah, and I could show you what I normally get. I mean, I get every single department, no names, but I know who's going to be under a contract and who's not. So I can't tell. I took the 74,000 out, which with the 115 comes to 189,021 total for those two positions and the 74,000. So it came out to 189,021.
I'm sorry, what positions those?
The two positions Carrie said.
Oh, okay.
The one-
Yeah,
115.
and then the 74,000 for the,
Oh, on the
Raises.
the 2.5%.
yeah, the 2.5. The other, okay, SRP, a couple more things that I'd like to really consider changing these numbers. And again, I asked for this stuff in January, I haven't seen the answers. Not your fault. Okay, cell phones. I was
Can we go
told
back
that.
one second on the?
Sorry.
On your last
Yep.
proposal? You're saying you want all non-contractual. There are also a couple of positions in there that are looking above and beyond the 74 that have raises or a
Let's put it this way, only contractual raises.
okay, so it's more than the 74 because there are other
Yes,
increases
but I couldn't tell
that
you
are
that.
scheduled
Right.
on there for people that are non-contractual. They're,
Right.
whatever reason they're,
That would be like department heads or some admin or whatever. I'm saying only those raises that we are contractually obligated to give should we be giving this year. Does that make sense?
it does. If you give me 2 seconds, I will give you that total.
Okay.
While he's looking, can I make a comment on that?
Yeah, sure.
That's a tough one. I don't know
I
when.
know, it is.
When the last time that the administrators had received the raise, but I know a couple of years ago, I was against it. The school committee voted to give all the administrators at the school side a raise, and it was approved, and they all got it. So I just, it's kind of in fairness to the administrators on the municipal side, I just don't know when the last raise came about and how much it was. We have to make sure we.
Well, we've looked into it.
Have you? Okay,
Yeah,
so,
and-
I don't know. I'm asking, can you?
Well, there's step increases, so there's something every year. It's maybe not 2.5.
Yeah.
It's not every year. Step
It's
increases
not a-
do not occur every year. It varies. There are a lot of cases, after they've been here for any length of time, it's 5 years before they see another step increase. That $74,000 also represent increases, not just to the department heads, because it would seem like a lot of money for 8 people, 10 people. There are 60-plus individuals
Right.
that would be receiving some type of raise out of that, with the largest one being about $2,000. The smallest one down as low as about $70 annually
But
on
there are
those raises.
some raises that are way, way, way above 2.5%.
Well, the ones you saw in there are those positions that have been scheduled to get a bump in their pay scale for, and again, that was done by the prior manager. I don't know what they're for, why they're in, but those are separate and apart from the 74,000. Those are different numbers.
Well-
That there are a couple. I know for one, the gentleman that works for me, Cody. Cody he's taken on a lot more responsibility. He has taken a Security Plus certification recently. And in his case, the manager said, you get the certification, and with the increased duties, we will move you up. And he has. He's taken on, especially the last month and a half, he's basically been handling most of what I would normally do, on top of what he always does. So that was one position. There were a couple of other positions, and again, I don't know what the criteria was for their movement, but again, I wasn't involved in those, but there are several others that are in there that, again, there may be a reason they're in there, but the manager's not here, so I can't give you that data on why.
And I can understand doing it on a case-by-case basis, but we're out of time. My email went in January or early February to figure all this stuff out, and I hate
I
to
know.
I don't like to do it as a lump, because I understand that there are people that this would only maybe mean $60 a year, where there are other people that it's going to be substantial.
Well, substantial to the tune if they're making $40,000. These people here have not had a raise in 2 years. The last raise they received was a single % raise for all of these non-union people. Prior to that, the last raise they got prior to that one was 2 years prior. It's been 5 years, and they've received a total of 2% increase over 5 years is all they've received. That's why they were in for a raise they were scheduled for one last year that was taken out on them.
Well, then what do we do if my calculations are right and we have somebody who is actually getting a 25% raise, but not a promotion? I guess, I kind of think business-wise, not, you know, as far as promotions, I can see that you've jumped up and you're in a new job, you have new responsibilities, you're going to get probably an increase.
I have
As long as you've been here a year. I mean, I don't know if that's, I think anybody less than a year shouldn't even get a raise, because you need to be anywhere for a year before you get a raise.
The position that you're speaking of, that's about a 25% increase. If it's the one I'm thinking of, that's in the planning department, and
Right, yes.
and I do, looking at it, it looks like it may be that he went from associate to assistant planner. She's making the director is making a jump in there. I don't know. You'd have to. I don't know why this didn't come up in prior meetings, but again, this was.
We couldn't tell.
I know.
I had no information to figure this out.
We're trying to give you as much as we can on this, because we're coming in late to this party as well. But as far as that raise, it's the 2.5% raise to the employees. That's
Ed, let me put it to you this way, and I think I asked you this question before. Across the board,
yes, ma'am.
non-contractual raises for anyone who is not in a contractual situation. Cap it at 2.5%. Where are we at that point? See, I don't even know how much these raises total over and above the 74,000, because I can't figure that out on every department.
Well, that raise, the $74,000 raise, would amount to 3.3 cents on the tax rate, is what that amounts to on the tax rate. So, I mean, that's what that is. As far as what other info did you want, ma'am?
Well, what I'm saying is, you and I are discussing the fact that there are some large jumps, medium jumps, small jumps, forgetting the 74,000. That
Okay.
We'll put that over there. If we capped everybody's raise, if everyone gets a raise, cap it at the same amount of percent. But see, we don't know how much impact that's going to have, because we don't have those numbers. Right?
No, you don't have what numbers?
How much the rest of the raises cost?
The rest
The
of the
raises that are not,
I
the
can-
department heads.
I've got that.
That
I
kind
did
of
that
stuff.
that's what I did Sunday. I
Yeah,
spent
but
Sunday
what
doing
you
all this.
sent me,
I gave you a total, I believe, is what I gave you, was a total, and that was looking at,
see, that's why I called you today, because I was having a little bit of problem with that spreadsheet.
the total, the other raises combined, the increase in the four people, that amounts to 25,855 is the total amount on there. I thought I gave you that data in the email portion of it. 25,855 is those four additional raises that.
Can I ask a question, Ed? I
I'll
know.
try and answer it, sir.
I know that regarding, and I don't know the exact dollars, but the planning, wasn't it going to be like the individual is going to do extra duties and not hire an extra person? Wasn't that?
I wasn't involved in that
what-
piece. I
what we
don't,
heard from,
honestly, I don't know what it is.
Wasn't that what we heard from planning, is that he was going to do extra duties and not hire another person in planning? I know the director's not here, but either way.
We're not trying to do this
Oh,
by
all right.
person, though. I don't want to do this
Yeah, I don't want to do it either.
individual.
I'm not- that's why I just gave you a
In
total.
fact, I don't even like the idea, because we've already had this. Avery's
know,
director's
that's what I'm
been here.
saying.
The manager has recommended it, and
Well, that
and we've
doesn't
had
mean
it
we can
before us.
afford it is
We
the
can change
problem.
anything we want, but we have to be careful what we think we're going to be changing, and then we have to, get the majority on vote. But if you want to comment, Mrs. Wells, on that, because I don't know. I know you've talked to the council before.
I have. I usually sit over there. Today I sat back there.
All
so I
right,
didn't
all
mean
right.
to throw you off.
And we didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, I'm happy. I did explain this before. I don't remember if you were here or not. What we have is we are down a position
Right.
in my department, but the workload hasn't changed. In fact, the workload has ticked up.
Right.
So what I have are two positions in my department that are filling that gap. So each one is taking a different end of the position that used to take place. So both of them are not raises per se, but reclassifications with new job descriptions.
And not hiring the extra
And
person.
not hiring the extra person.
That's what we heard. I guess maybe
Is
I
actually
was
less money.
listening. I was listening.
I do apologize. I did miss the April 2nd meeting.
Okay.
So
That
you
might have been the one. I
discussed
don't
it then,
remember. Yeah.
And maybe Glenn heard it, but I was in Virginia, so it was kind of hard for me to hear that.
Well, I'm glad you clarified it, because
Okay.
that's what I...
Just let me know.
Right. All right. All right, and again, this is a council discussion. I know audience is welcome to
Thank you.
attend.
Thank
but,
you.
Okay, any other comments from Mrs. Carlson or the other council people?
That's my proposition that, I mean, there's no way, because the council should not get involved in employees, that we would know, that I would know, that this was because, if somebody gets a promotion, yes, they usually get a raise in their salary, but I did not know that. Let's see.
Again, that would just affect the 4 extra people, am I correct? There's still the 2.5% increase for the administrative staff, the 74,000 is
Right.
everybody else
Right.
besides, right? Okay.
Well, yes,
Okay, that's what I'm getting out of it. All right, thank you.
yeah.
Okay, anyone else? Comments, questions regarding of the proposal that's been put before us? Okay, Mrs. Bacon.
Hang on, I moved my book. One thing that I would like to look at, is this on? Is the lease to purchase, and remove the lease to purchase from the budget. We did not, council has never received a presentation regarding this lease to purchase, these vehicles. We don't even know the first thing about it. So before we start going down that rabbit hole, I think we really need to have a full presentation. I think we need to have the full understanding. I think we need to have the actual payments. I don't even know what's in the budget, if this is even accurate, because we've not even seen one of the lease agreements. So I am requesting that we remove the lease to purchase, and the ones that I could find in the book are, I'll wait for you, Ed. Thank you. Are 710 Police Department, 810 Engineering, 820 DPW Inspections, 830 DPW Roads and Bridges, 840 DPW Snow Removal.
Do you have the amounts?
I do. Do you want the amounts?
Well, please.
Okay, yep. 710 Police, 31,665. 810 Engineering, 4,308. 820 DPW Inspections, 4,308. 830 DPW Roads and Bridges, 47,762.
Excuse me. That one already had existing on that lease. Kevin, do you know what the new amount is?
It's about $7,000 for that truck that was taken, that $32,000 was taken out. My request, the town manager put in for the lease. The balance of $41,000 is for the sweeper that we bought on the 5-year note. So we're still
The sweeper we did a couple years ago.
correct.
So there's only 7,000 new.
Okay, so 7.
So take the 47 out, put 7,000?
Yeah.
Take
Is-
7,000 out of that out, so you're still going to have 41,000 left in
Yeah.
there. We'll take $7,000 out of that one, yes.
So 41.
41. And, 2,585. I know there was talk about implementing that for other town vehicles, but I didn't see it in any other budget lines, so I went through the whole budget again today. These were the only departments.
If I may, maybe we could have some of the department heads get up and speak, because I'm on the understanding that by getting into this lease to purchase, it's reducing our budget quite a bit by not having to purchase the vehicle right out. I know we don't have a copy of the agreement, but maybe one of the department heads, maybe the chief could come up and explain, because you're involved in it, just so you can give us a rundown, because if you still need the police vehicles and we're paying $31,000 at least to purchase, if we don't have the lease to purchase, we're going to be forced to buy the 3 new vehicles outright at $100,000 or whatever. So maybe.
So our previous ask before the cuts the town manager made were in the neighborhood of $98,000 for 2 SUVs. And we agreed to switch over to the lease purchase, which brought that down to $31,000. We did some research with other departments. I talked to some other chiefs. They're comfortable with using it. There's other agencies that currently use the lease to purchase, and it's basically a finance program from what I understand. I would not recommend wholesale cutting that because our fleet needs that injection in new vehicles.
Yeah, I mean, it's considerably cheaper for us to lease a purchase than it is to come up with the money up front. I mean, I don't know if I'm for that move. I think I understand we're spending the money, but we need police vehicles. We need.
Could you tell me what the interest rate is?
We haven't done any of that research.
Okay. Could you tell if it's going to be a true or operating lease and financing lease?
It's a financing lease
it's
from what I was told by the manager. The manager did the research on it. We've never done it. I already testified that we've never done it. But going forward, I'm comfortable. Other agencies do it.
Well, Chief,
and I certainly am not for not buying any more police vehicles.
That's what I think you mentioned while we were discussing this, your department, on these issues, that other departments have done it. And the bottom line is that it would be less money, less costly annually.
Certainly in the short term.
In the short term, right. In the long term, you're going to end up paying more because you're doing it over 5 years maybe.
It can be a 4 or 5 years.
4 or 5, whatever.
But our frontline fleet's 10.
Exactly.
So.
But I mean, all right, so if, let's say we don't go that route, as was recommended, to keep the cost down, then what we're going to find is the cost's going to be much higher for the vehicles you need.
For two
for
vehicles.
This year. For two vehicles.
It'd be $98,000.
Exactly.
We can get 3 vehicles for $31,000.
Right.
And we would finance them over 4 years.
And this was discussed. All right. It's deja vu, because I'm hearing these things. We've met with each department head. And I think on each department we talked about the purchase lease and the idea, and that other cities are doing it. Now, again, some people might not be comfortable with that, but just so long as they know you're going to end up spending more money and getting fewer vehicles. Okay.
In the short term this year.
I do have another question. So if we miss one payment, what I have read is one payment you miss, that vehicle goes back. So we would no longer have that vehicle. Is that correct? Have you read that in the lease? I just want to confirm.
I don't plan on missing a payment, so.
Okay, I know, but I just want to make, and also, are we sure that the numbers that we see in the budget are since you don't know what the interest rate is and you don't know what the cost of the vehicle, so how do we know we've appropriated the correct amount of money?
Well, I think we're in the neighborhood of where I think we need to be as far as that goes. I don't have an exact lease to show you what the financing is going to be. The manager came up with the idea. We all signed off on it based on, his input. It was new to me, so we did some cursory research on the leasing, and we found other agencies do it, and they've had positive results. So. That's what I testified.
Could you tell me what other agencies?
North Kingstown, I know. Providence.
Okay.
Off the top of my head, I've talked to both of their chiefs.
Providence,
I believe
and
it could
North
be
Kingstown
Spanish too.
Okay.
But it's fairly new to patrol vehicles, but so far they've had good results.
You're only allotted this much money for the lease, so you got to make the numbers work. That's the bottom line. If you're not, you're going to end up with 1 vehicle instead of 2. So I'm comfortable with that.
I have a question. I understand our need for police vehicles. That's not the problem. Would we be buying police vehicles? Say you buy 2 this year?
3.
3?
You want to, with 31.
3 this year, and then would we need 3 more next year? Because I know our fleet is aging, so is this going to become, what I'm thinking is it's going to become a rolling, compounding lease?
I believe it will roll, but I think if we did it over 4 years and we have 10 in the frontline fleet.
That was my next question.
So if we did 3 this year, 2, and we maintained at a 2 level, we would get up to the 100,000 mark at some point, but we're already going to spend $98,000 this year for 2 SUVs. So we're going to get there eventually, but it'll be some short-term savings.
Because we're only looking at maybe a max of 5 years on a vehicle?
I think 4, to be honest.
So we don't want a lease that's longer than the vehicle's going to last.
Right. So we say 4. So at that point, you buy them for $1 and they go into the detail fleet. That's my understanding of the lease program.
We just have not had a formal. As usual, we had nothing in our packets to give us any information. And I know this is 11th hour.
Coming here in the 11th hour, though, is we want to put $96,000 back in our budget for 2 vehicles.
I understand, but I'm not comfortable if I don't ask questions, and Mr. Shibley might have all the answers, but I don't.
No.
So,
I just think we've done cursory research with other agencies, so I'm comfortable enough, having talked to the other chiefs, that they're using lease programs. It's the financing.
Let me clarify with Mrs. Carlson. I don't have all the answers, but thank you. Somewhat a dagger, but that's all right. It's going to be this type of night, I think.
I would just say, too, for my non-union employees, just as a push, I'm not involved in
listen,
that.
please. Otherwise,
But some of our non-union employees are the hardest working employees we have, and they're low-hanging fruit. They never get a raise.
okay.
So I would just say,
Yeah,
a plug for those
I didn't
folks.
like that idea either. Okay. Anyone else? Any other comments? I was going to say, anyone else?
did I ask you about the cell phones?
You asked me to give you a reading of, the numbers on those.
Did you get any yet? Yeah.
Did I?
Yeah. No. Okay. Well, don't forget, I asked back, that wasn't you I asked, but,
Oh, exactly.
yeah, but I was told that in the ballpark of $90-some thousand for cell phone usage, between cell phones, contracts.
Off the top of my head, I don't think it's anywhere near that amount, but.
I hope not. Okay.
I know the municipal side is.
Because we don't know who, I asked who has them, what the contracts were. I know, but it'll be too late. It'll be too late.
Unless I was given the request.
Well, you weren't finance / IT / ITM.
But I will get it for you so you have it at least, so you have the information.
That would be
I know it's
helpful.
late, but I'll get it
Okay.
for you.
And my other comment is credit cards. I think there should be 2 credit cards, town credit cards, one for the town manager, one for the finance director, who would sit over there if we had one. And we need protocols and procedures on how they're going to be used, because I don't think we have that yet. And now I'm done, Mr. Shipley. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. LeBossiniere.
Thank you, Mr. Shibley. Mine's going to be a little more dramatic, at least for start and for discussion and for thoughts. No, we won't get yelled at. We'll disagree, but we won't yell. I'm very uncomfortable with the prospect of that it'll be suggested to move the one of the sewer enterprise general obligation bonds to the general fund, which would add, from what the former finance director told, should be 1%. I'm also uncomfortable being directly at a 4% levy, because any move that is possibly made at the financial town meeting, which may add, is going to throw you over 4%, and now it relegates it to the state and for their decision, and may even render a vote, as far as I know, invalid if it goes over until the state were to. Although, if the people spoke to add to it, then I don't know how the state could invalidate it. But Ed, would you plug in a number for me, just so I can see what it's going to do to that? Change to the
Obviously in the red side, correct?
a reduction on that side.
Go ahead, sir.
Would you put in a reduction of $800,000, please? That not included, not what included. That would be including the ones that the positions that were discussed. 800 deduction total.
I don't want to remove all of them.
Oh, all right. Well, what was the total of the other positions? What's that?
Where's that 800 coming from?
I've got all my list. I'm giving them a total first.
Okay.
All right, so with those in there.
Oh, all right. So it would be 800 less the 115. So 685.
So we're down by 266, 742.
Oh, all right.
And a levy increase of 3.6%. Okay. If we drop in 800,000, actually.
Yeah, a total of 800 is pretty much, or thereabouts. It's close to an estimate.
Let's do the difference between that.
Yeah. Yeah. So. Yeah, so if 800,000 off of the levy, what would that? Oh, yeah, where have you got to?
Yep, I got you.
I can't see it.
I can't see it.
It's like a little blur for me. But it would be the difference. Oh, I see what you're doing. The difference of what you've already plugged in.
Exactly. All right, we're at 800,000. That brings it down to a levy increase of 2.81, and a tax rate increase of 1.32%.
1.32. All right.
What was the levy percentage again?
The levy percentage now is at 2.81.
2.81 if we went down that
With
much.
the 800 taken out.
With the 800 taken out.
Okay, thank you.
With the 800 taken
And
out.
this could be off by a penny or two. There'll be some rounding effect.
And again, and there's,
pretty much fall right off.
again, and I know every department head battles for, for what they need, and I don't believe that anybody is pumping up any of the things, but the question comes to the services that we're going to have to be willing to do without or cut back on and do that. And it's a proposal that may not make it past this desk, but some of the things that I had some concerns, for instance, with some of the lease purchase programs myself. Okay, I had some concerns, and I can understand the chief's argument for that, et cetera. But some of the things that I've got down on here, for instance, in the general fund, we added quite a bit. I think I went up to 250. But my proposal is to take, in this proposal, is to knock the contingency in the general fund. It got bumped up. The contingency on that was.
They are in negotiations, and that's why you're seeing that money in the contingency fund, sir.
Right, absolutely, and I understand that, but again, with negotiations.
Just explaining.
Yep. Again, but that's why I'm going, and some of the numbers that I've got there, 125,000, I know they pumped it up, and they're on the negotiations. Again, the land trust was up for, he had it at 180, and the manager knocked it down to 169.8. I know we like to put money in the land trust so we can acquire land, but this may not be the year to fully fund it in the year that they're doing.
I looked at that myself,
Yep.
and unfortunately, that is mandated by charter. We have to give.
The total amount that
It's one half. It's 50% of. I forget which state money we get, but it has to be 50% of that money, and that's by state law as well. That's what we've got. That's controlled.
What's that?
It is in the charter. It's I just have to get the section. It's excuse me, sorry about that. It's section 8.16D of the charter. It says the town council shall set aside as part of each annual budget an amount equal to no less than 50% of monies remitted to the town by the tax administrator of the state of Rhode Island pursuant to the general laws 45-25-1, which is the land use conveyance tax, which the state collects, or we collect, but this says to take 50% of that, and I
think that's why the manager dropped it down a bit, because based on the estimated revenue for this year, and that's where it was moving with that. But yeah, I looked at that one, sir. I was thinking the same thing, because.
Is there a way to calculate if you just took it down to the 50% and nothing more? I think that's what.
That's where it is.
That's what he's saying.
That's where it is.
What he's saying.
No less than.
That's,
Yeah.
Because I noticed he dropped it, et cetera, and I wanted to make
That's
sure.
why the
All right.
estimate on that
Again,
revenue was decreased.
These are particular suggestions for discussion that I've had.
Would you like me to take that out of the 500,000?
You can move that. You can
that was
move
how
that out
much?
of there,
160. How much were you recommending? 160.
It was 69.8 would have been out of it. So in essence, you can round it to 70,000.
Okay. Thank you.
And to reducing that to see what it's going to go up as we move these out of there. That's why I wanted to go all the way to where and then work back.
Were you
out of the contingency, how much were you taking out? Because we have 10% that goes to pensions and 10% that goes to...
Not in the contingency. The contingency is set aside for...
Oh, not the contingency, you're
yeah.
right. The contingency, I'm thinking that
That's
was
set aside for other stuff.
Yeah, for the increase in salaries, right.
The number I wrote down there was $125,000. Okay, that's the number I wrote down, which still leaves us, I don't know what, I didn't write down the amounts left in there. Off the, off the general fund, yeah. It was at, it moved up to $225,000. So it left 100, left 100 in there. Last year out of the contingency, I mean, again, projected expenses this year only 50,000 out of the contingency, which I believe was probably the 2 retirements that maybe that had been, that 50,000 that they were discussing, or maybe 25. For the, when people retire for the...
I believe 25 came out of that for that.
25,
there was one that was covered in that other line item.
There was one that was covered, okay. And doing, but so anyway, that's where it went. If the comfort level is not to drop it that much, then that's just a thought process. The retirement coverage, which we discussed, that he put 50,000 in, which the answer that I got was that we would not be able to carry that over. So in essence, we're going to put 50,000 in there. If nobody retires, we're going to spend it somewhere else. The whole idea was to ramp it up to something else. Well, we're not ramping it up if we're putting it in to spend it somewhere else.
We need to see if there's a fund. We need to see if there's a fund, if we're going to put money into that, in my feelings, that we can ramp it up and save it.
That's correct.
It's crazy.
But we have no idea with that now, so my proposal is to take that $50,000 out.
I agree.
As far as the administrative raises, I just went a little bit. I said, the teachers union was they renegotiated a 0.5%, so I went 0.5% down, which meant $15,000 off of those raises, straight out without any FICA stuff on top of that. Let me see. I've got some other things on here. Again, looked at in 830, there's a motor vehicle, 32,500. I know that we say we need motor vehicles and doing that, but again, it's something that that's in. Yeah, which one is 830? Under roads and bridges, under DPW. Okay. The other one is the cemetery contract. I know that, in the past, it's $37,000 for the cemetery contract. I'm just curious, and I've never, why we're subcontracting out. Again, I know that our guys are worked, et cetera, but I'm just wondering why we can't handle that within the town with the payroll that we already have.
Less complaints.
And then, let me see, there was a... What's that? The cemetery contract is $37,000.
What was the administrative?
That was $15,000 on there. Okay. All right. Like I said, some of the things again, I don't know what legal. You can't get to $800,000 without considering, personnel. And again, I know that everybody counts on all the personnel, et cetera. The reality is, though, when, if you're willing to give up, or if the people do not want to pay for certain services, that's what I've heard a lot of things, that the taxes are too high, that we have too many, et cetera. In all honesty, I don't know what the flavor would be for a reduction of things, but I know we've added positions over the past. And in essence, in my numbers here, I questioned, and I was spoken with this in the police area. I know we're training 2 new officers, but they're in essence not employees of the town at this point in time. I don't know the exact cost. Do you know the exact cost it was to train each of them? They said a weekly amount. I don't know, 30, 35. Again,
the colonel may. I don't have it off the top of my head.
And again. But the numbers that I have with 2 officers were 56,432. Each on that. Plus, obviously, there's benefits, et cetera, but whatever we spend, again, it's between the two benefits and everything, you're talking $150,000 on an annual basis, and I know the police department is always, trying to keep the numbers up there, and we'll have disagreements, I'm sure. Looking into...
Greg,
yep.
excuse me, can I ask you a question about
sure.
that? Okay,
Sure.
so 2 new officers, they're currently at the academy.
Apparently they're finishing at some point, close to a time.
Do we have an agreement? I don't know if you know this.
No, that's
Do we have
what-
an agreement that if they don't work for the town, in essence, they have to pay back their training at the academy?
Well, that wouldn't be their choice if they didn't work for the town.
But if they had a
I don't know what
contract
I
to
don't
do
know what
that, they
agreement,
would.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Oh.
From what I understood, that there was not. So, but
There isn't any
Colonel can speak to
contract that they work for us, but obviously you take 2 individuals out of their lives. They had jobs before we contracted for them to come work for us, and so we've now unemployed those people, and so that's bad blood to me. I don't agree with it.
I didn't expect that you would, and I don't know if anybody else would
I don't know why we
either.
would focus
Again,
on simply the officers when there's other. Let's play well.
Can I make a comment
Does
on
that
that?
fill our minimum manning then?
No, we're 2 down, and the
We're
2
still
would
2
fill-
down.
would fill our 57.
We're paying the trainees officers, am I correct, probably $30,000?
Well, we paid salary
So,
for them to
or
be
whatever,
there.
approximate cost.
I
mean-
think I'd have to get back to you with a number, but I'd
Well, say it was $20,000 for both of them. That's still $20,000 that we're spending. If we
We've
don't
already
hire them,
invested that.
some other town or municipality is going to grab them because they're
assuming.
already trained, they've already been paid, and like you said, you took these guys out of their work, they're going to look for a job, and they're going to find it, and we're going to lose them. If we were down 2 more men, your minimum manning is required with these 2 people.
Well, minimum manning is a function of all that. So you have to look at where you're going to pull away something else that we do. We have 1 SRO in the high school. We have no training officer as it is right now. We used to have a training officer. We have other functions, detectives. I mean, you're going to, rob Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not willing to give up an SRO for sure. I just want to make sure that, you're going to be able, obviously you're going to use everybody that you have, but I think in my reading that you're going to be it's going to be a
Well, I just don't agree with clipping 2 police officers. I mean, if you have to give us a number, then we'll try to find. But I don't want to lay.
Well, that was the other thing I'm having as well too. I mean, I'm saying how I came up with the dollar amounts. If department heads, if we work our way to a dollar amount and it comes from other areas, they said my concern is is having to ask the people for 4% and then an additional 1% when the state comes back and says it's the wise thing to do is to move it into the general fund, and that's all. I mean, if there's other ways that it could be done, but I don't really know how it's going to, how we're going to get there without, and I know that every man is needed. The DPW needs every person, and we seem to, and there's nothing personal. I mean, I'm looking at numbers, and that's what I added up numbers and tried to see different places that we may or may not be able to move, and that's just, again, one area.
I just don't think it's our job really to be micromanaging these departments.
Right.
Give them the money they want.
Yeah.
Who are we to tell them to get rid of the police officers?
The only thing I asked the manager was,
if we don't agree with
Again, it's
what I'm
council
saying is,
discussion.
if we don't agree with the amount of money you're getting, we cut back the amount of money. If you see it fit that you get rid of personnel or you decrease other ways in the department, that's your job to do that, not ours.
It may be personnel from another area. I mean, to focus in on the 2 police officers, I don't feel like that's
Right.
fair.
I gotta agree with Mr. McGee. First of all, it's a high priority public safety where, if your trash doesn't get picked up, it doesn't get picked up. All right? Look around to some of the bigger cities. We've had 2 officers go through, what is it, Chief, 17 weeks? I kind of know this.
6 months.
The graduation date's May 25th, 11 a.m.
Well, you send a message too, I think,
Well,
to the entire
I'm just
state
asking.
that we're not legitimate.
Not only that, but when we had the discussion of the officers, we talked about the number of personnel that you'll have, provided we have those 2 officers sworn in, which is what, 56?
57.
57. And I think I even made the comment is that the average recommended by the International Police Chiefs Association is 1 officer for every 500 people in your community. 1 for every 500. So out of 35,000, technically we should be 70. Now, granted, we're not New York City, but according to the arrests that I've read about with the drug personnel, the 5 major arrests, and that followed the week where we had on Whitfield Street down in our neighborhood, Mr. McGee. Drugs are everywhere. Never mind school safety. Never mind public safety. That would be maybe a dollar amount, and then you could just not have lights on in the police station. But to pull the carpet of 2 police officers would be more than poor. Not only that, they'd be hired immediately. At the town of Coventry's expense, they'd go out and be hired immediately by another city or town, that they would save the 20, 30, 40. Plus, some didn't graduate out of that class of 60. I heard there were about 6 that didn't. So it's not guaranteed when you graduate. So when you graduate, you're gold. All right? So to make that, no. If we want to come up for what we've been told by our directors, what they needed, by what our former town manager recommended, lower than what the director said, and still it's within the budget. If we want to just cut a number, then cut a number. When we start micromanaging what department cuts what, that's not the job of the council. If you want to do a dollar amount, do the dollar amount. I'm comfortable with some exceptions, maybe the 115,000, maybe it's not the time for those 2 positions, but I'd be very careful, and I think I said this at the beginning, be very careful of what we cut, not knowing what we're cutting, because that could be a big problem. I understand if they add it to financial town meeting, which again, I don't want to comment on that, but yeah, you don't want to kick over that amount. I understand that. I've been going to that since 1984. On the council the first time. Hello? So yes, we have to get it down, but go with a dollar amount. Let's not start knocking individual directors as to what they cut. So just come up with a dollar amount. And then the directors can decide how they're going to, whittle their department with the dollars that the council has cut. That's my personal opinion.
And I do appreciate that, and respectfully, I do disagree. At budget time, we wouldn't receive all of the budgets with the individual items, and in the past, it has been done where things have been reduced by the council to specifically. In all honesty, again, I'm always happy to listen to them if we can come up with a total dollar amount to get it down. But again, I don't feel comfortable going to be inside that 3% and add another 1%. Do it. If we want to come up with a number, that's why I threw out the 800,000 first to come to a number, and how we actually get there. I'm just telling you that the areas that I did.
A number I can understand, because that way our interim town manager and his directors will have to whittle it down, unless you'll know the amount, and then even if it gets add-on at the financial town meeting, we're semi-safe, which I can understand.
And if the people want it back and it goes higher than the amount, it goes to an all-day referendum.
Right.
Okay. Colonel, if we did cut those 2 police officers out, what would be the difference in overtime? You'd have to pay it in overtime just to make up those 2 positions.
It does. It does. It will affect overtime. To what extent, I can't tell you that. But again, there's different personnel in my department. There's different personnel in everyone's department. I'm not for just picking out the 2 junior officers to cut their positions. Not particularly in the light of all the work we've been doing, and I'm particularly proud of the work that they've been doing over the last several years.
Well, I just went to that area again, meaning that I understand you've got a union, et cetera. So if I started at the top, the junior officers would still be gone.
No, they would, but I have Council 94. I have non-union employees, as do all other directors.
In other words, that's where the numbers. And again, if we can come up with just a number, I'm telling you where I came up with the numbers and brought this out for discussion.
I think the difference is we've just invested 6 months of salary into 2 people. If you're looking at the last people hired by this town, it's certainly probably not those 2 officers.
Yeah.
We've invested 6 months already, and it takes a year to get a police officer on the street. So you're going to set us back another year before we can even get anybody on the
And again,
street.
and I've got other numbers down over here of people who've been working for the town. I mean, you can't go through and propose cuts without, especially when everything is so labor-heavy for everything. To have any cuts that, again, we've made our commitments to fully funding all of the pensions. Right now, fully funding the ARC payments, which rightfully so, we should be done, but when it wasn't done for so long, for so many years, it put us all behind the 8 ball, and again, we're at a time where I suggested many years ago where we could have chosen our sacrifices will begin to choose us, and that's where we're at, and they're very, very difficult decisions, and again, it's not just for the council will bring to the people, and the people will make the final decision as they always do. But again, for discussion, I'm more than happy to try to work down to a number and let the department heads and the interim town manager work down to where we can.
I think that's all we can ask.
Where we can work. Yep. And again, it's all suggestions as far as where I'm.
Colonel, how many weeks is the academy?
20.
It's just shy of 6 months.
20.
20. Yeah.
20. So you're talking 40,000 plus that we have paid for training so far.
Right.
To go to the academy.
Right.
That's
right.
not
And
equipment
then
or anything.
we'll
The
have
class started January 8th, Mr. Warzika, and the graduation date is May 25th. I kind of know personally.
Right, and then from that, like I said, from that point forward, we'll have 2 officers on a payroll with everything. So the total investment is a lot bigger than the small ones, and we wouldn't have done those people wrong, I don't believe, if they found a job somewhere else. We actually would have done them a favor by training them.
I think they want to be Coventry police officers.
I don't doubt it. I think you're a good man to work for. You run a great department.
We have a good agency.
And I know that. And you've got some good people working there. There's no doubt. And it's not personal.
Okay, that's 10-4, Colonel.
So I could run through a lot of other ones, but probably going to get the same thing. Again, it's something where I can make the suggestions to the town manager if we're at, even if it comes down lower. I'm looking to, in other words, to cover what could be coming over from the general, the obligation bond. That's what I was looking at. And again, again, it's something where, let's leave it at that. Where, and again, you can. If you want to remove some of these, whatever, but I just think you need to look at the total amount now and work that way.
Right now, we are about $100,000 less than last year's allocation for municipal services. Our increase is actually only $615,000 over last year, and we've got a reduction on there now of $730,000. So you're $115,000 less than what, and it's going to be tough. I'm just going to say it. It's going to be really tough.
I don't think there's any fluff in the municipal budget. I really don't. I think, unfortunately, the price of everything does go up. I don't think our taxpayers are willing to give up services. We like having our garbage picked up. We like having our roads plowed. I don't think they're willing to give up them services. So I'm not for cutting the workers. I understand they've got, I look at our Parks and Rec, for instance, same amount of people in the Parks and Rec department that there was 12 years ago, cutting so many more parks. So it's not like they're not doing anything. They're working hard for their money, and I just don't think we can afford to cut personnel out of it. I understand that's the highest cost, but I just don't think that's going to be a good thing.
But again, there's the question, if you want the services, you pay for the
Well, that's
services.
exactly
And the
right,
only
yeah.
thing I've heard is that it's another tax increase, and that's what I'm trying to work that, to make it at least palatable. We're not
I
going to
understand.
zero, it's not happening, but even with that amount or something close to it, deducted from here, if the general obligation bond comes back with a recommendation from the Auditor General and from Citron Cooperman that the best move to make is to move it into the general fund, we're still going to a 4%, to max on, virtually on the levy. That's where we're going, even with the, with these reductions. Or we fill it, and then we go to the state and ask for a special dispensation for the 1%. That's what, That's,
Well, I don't think we have to
Yeah.
ask for that 1%. I'm in favor
Yeah.
of not putting the sewer
Yeah.
fund in right now. I think we need,
All right,
we're
but-
too early doing
but
that, and that
but
will put
those
us
are my-
back.
right.
Yeah.
And I agree, because we haven't received any recommendations or anything yet, and I agree. But that number is looming, so that's where my concerns are with this.
So are we at the point where we need
Well, I think we're at a point where we've got to come down to a dollar amount.
Where does everybody feel comfortable?
And then,
you know?
I suppose it would be up to which departments get cut the most, and then how they work with the money that they get cut from. And it'll be up to the directors and our interim town manager.
So-
I mean, how else do you do it?
So
I mean, you,
my question is, Ed, with level, were you talking we were lower this year? Where would level funding, what would have to, what'd you say, about $115,000?
$115,000 less taken out
So-
to level fund us for this year.
All right, so in other words, if it went down to 615, in essence, that's level funded, so to speak.
Just one of the things that's causing some of these tax increases that we're facing are the fact that we have put out, as a community, not the council, but as a community, a lot of these bond issues. We issued a $10 million bond issue for road reconstruction. We issued a $5 million plus bond issue for energy reduction. We issued a $5 million bond issue for the enhanced trash collection. We did $12 million a couple of years ago on renovations to the school. I believe it was 12, may have been 11. And we did another $12 million recently for a DHS building. There is a huge amount of additional bonding that has been authorized and approved by the citizens of this town. Those things cost money, they have to be paid, and it's causing a lot of these increases. I mean, we're looking at, relatively speaking, a very small increase this year. Most increases have been small. We have reduced personnel in town hall as well as most town departments. This is not induced from overspending. It's by.
I never
Ed.
said.
I know. I'm just saying.
I didn't
This is where the
suggest
money's
any of
coming
that.
from. This is where these increases are
Ed,
coming from.
let me ask, the 115, we've already kind of talked about that dollar amount, all right? And it's just, don't hire the two spots, even though they're needed, but the time is not right. What would it take, let's say, that's 115. Would you have to drop another $200,000, $300,000 to make it $415,000? And what would that do? I mean, that's another $300,000 besides the 115. And where it comes from, it was going to be a good question. But what would that dollar amount? That 415. Reduce the budget by 415, just 415, not 800, because of all the bond requirements.
Yeah, well, that's what I have.
Can I make a comment on that?
Right.
While he's looking that up, can I make a comment on that way?
Right.
We have $53 million in bonds out there outstanding.
Right.
Those are all taxpayer-approved bonds.
I know.
That's,
that's what I just
responsibility for the
discussed.
taxpayers to pay. So it's not an issue that we're forcing on them. This is something that was approved by the taxpayers. We take a loan, we got to pay it.
I'm going there. I'm agreeing. So I want to know the bottom minimum we can drop, and then the directors are going to have to go from there, if that's what the council wants, versus approving the budget as presented.
If you brought the total decrease down to 415,
I'm just
you're looking at a
ballpark.
change on the levy increase of 3.38%. You're looking at a tax rate of 2.16. It
Right.
would amount to a 6.9. You're looking at a reduction of approximately 19 cents a thousand on the tax rate.
Right.
Is where it would be if you dropped it by 415.
And again, I just used another 300,000 as a ballpark figure at 415. So that'd be, besides the two positions that will not be funded if we approve that, then they'll be forced to find $300,000 from somewhere else on the municipal side.
That is a
Yeah, I know it's not going to be easy, but I'm just trying to put things in proper perspective. What's it going to do? the 300,000 more than the 115, which I think everybody agrees to.
It could do things such as,
Yeah.
when people come in to pay taxes,
Yeah.
there's one less personnel in the tax collector's
Right.
office, which means the line's out the door, people are
Right,
waiting for a substantial amount of time. It's one less person in Parks and Rec. I'm just giving you options.
Yeah,
I'm just,
I understand.
I know some of the
And
people
we have to
aren't-
come up, let's please let the council and the directors talk. This is not a public hearing, all right? Financial town meeting will be the time. We're trying to get to the bottom line here, and I understand Mr. LeBossonier's point that he doesn't want to go over, the state-approved levy at the financial town meeting if people come in and want to add things. Now, obviously, if they subtract things from what we're thinking about subtracting, that'd be even more devastation. But we have our job right now, tonight, to approve some type of dollar amount. And we kick it over to our interim town manager and our newly hired, to-be hired financial director, and all the directors that we have already heard from. Now, I mean, that's the dollar amount, the 115 and 300,000. Is there something less drastic than that? How about 200,000 plus the 115? I mean, is that less drastic? I know the directors all want to chip in. They've all communicated to us. We've had the budget hearings, individual. Now we're come time to cut time. It's cutters. All right? Okay. I'm not going to disagree. I'm going to probably be outvoted. And we have to cut. But I want to know, what's the dollar amount? I mean, that's a fair question. What's the dollar amount? And we got to come up with that.
I said, where you're at on the levy is 3.38. Should we, should the recommendation come in to add that general obligation bond, which, again, Mr. Tebow told me that virtually is 1% on the levy, is what moving that over would be.
All right, so you got to go less than that. Then.
But that doesn't have to be done this year.
That wouldn't happen this year. That would happen next year unless you made the decision now to try to move it in, which without all the information, I wouldn't recommend it.
Well, but that's what,
But that would actually affect next year's budget by moving it in.
Fiscal year 1920.
Correct.
But on the other hand, we don't know if the SRP is going to affect
No, so.
May I ask a
1819.
question?
Yes,
Where
yes.
is the information coming from that moving the general fund,
Sewer fund?
can wait a year? I did not get that impression from the Auditor General when we met. Did not get that impression at all.
They want us to move forward as expeditiously as possible.
Right.
But I'm saying by the time we get done with everything, I'm just, if we don't add it in now, how are you going to add it into this year's budget?
Well, I think that's another reason to consider reductions, quite frankly.
And we're considering
But,
reductions.
Yeah,
That's
I'm just
what
saying, I'm
trying
just
to give
trying to
it a dollar
reconcile.
amount.
I think you've got a very narrow window through which you can go, unless you want to go over the 4%, which is.
No, we don't.
So if you're going to do the sewer this year, I could be mistaken, but my impression of the Auditor General's recommendation was that it was going to require us to do it this year. You really have, that's a full percentage point if you move it. So to get below the mandated levy amount of 4%,
or at least
you've got to hit 3% or lower tonight.
What brings it, that's why.
And I don't see.
But where does 3% bring us?
Ed?
That's the dollar amount we're talking about.
Probably about another 250.
Probably going to be close.
Or two, yeah.
We are at
2.81 instead of 31.
2.01 with another 250.
There you go.
So it's 655.
So 255 on top of that, you're looking at $670,000 in cuts to get 1% off the levy.
And that's, in essence, it's approximately the size of that
Correct.
bond payment.
Correct.
I just don't think
Okay.
we're going to be required to do that this year. I mean, how can we, we can handle that after. We don't have all the facts back from our audit, and, I mean, I think it's a little premature to be dealing with the sewer fund at this time. I really do.
Well, that's why I said we've got so many variables that we don't have answers to. But and again, I don't want to belabor this, but I'd rather than have people potentially lose jobs on the town side, what if we still looked at taking down, reducing the admin and the non-contractual employees, including department heads, and taking that down from the 2.5 and giving everybody just a straight 1.5? Do we know how much that would affect the bottom line?
1.5's going to be another $15,000. So,
That's all?
On the 7, on that
Not
2.5.
on just the 74, I'm talking about
74.
straight line.
Oh, well, I'm not talking to their particular raises or their changes in doing it.
And I think we're going to have to find sewer money this year. I just don't see how that they're going to let us go for another year.
What's the
And
dollar
then we've got the
amount
SRP and the police contract.
What's the dollar amount that we can be changed, added, or subtracted at the financial town meeting before it goes to?
100.
Is it 180? I thought it had climbed. I thought it had climbed higher than that.
Yeah, it's 180 now in the charter.
190, 180.
Yeah, but didn't it climb?
Well, it's up. With the CPI. It depends on the CPI.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's
So,
why
but in the
usually
charter
going
now,
up.
so it says 180, give or take
Give
the
or take.
CPI.
It could be 190 now.
Yeah. So I don't remember what it was
For
last.
some reason, the number 250 is in my...
Whoa.
No. No, it's never been over 200,000. No.
Well, you-
sweeper.
No.
Sorry, Kevin.
I thought it was...
No, it's under 200,000. It's 180, 190.
that just makes it
I remember that.
more restrained.
So I mean, 180 off of that's going to bring you to 490, and that gives you people the opportunity to add it back if it's going to get it to,
503.
to that.
Section 503, Nick.
Section 503.
Yeah, I've got it.
Yeah.
It just
Oh, no,
says
that's not
180.
it. Sorry,
180.
not that. No.
It's-
right
Lonnie,
here.
that's 180.
It's section 8.18 D2. 180 up or down, all-day referendum.
To be adjusted every year by the change.
CPI.
And Ed, can I ask, every year it's been carrying the debt of the sewer.
Yeah, but wouldn't
What was
that
that?
be added for-
Isn't that in this budget?
Put into
The debt?
Goes up.
If we didn't do anything new on the sewer,
Put in years
If we didn't do anything new, then yeah, we'd be facing that approximately 1.1 million in debt on the sewers this upcoming fiscal year.
and is it in the budget, that amount? No? It's not in now. Nothing's in?
No.
All right, so we have to wait for that, and that's affecting the figure then. So we're talking, again, did I understand, like, the 115 plus another 500,000? Is that what we're talking about, to get the
We're looking at 670.
670 total?
To get down to a full one.
To a full 1%.
Yeah.
Is what
Well,
that-
what you need,
is what that
is
would
what you're
take.
saying.
Mr. Fa- don't we have enough in our sewer fund to control it this year? If the state comes through, I mean, our sewer fund got solvent enough, for this year. No.
No, that has been coming out of the general fund.
General.
Well,
Out of the general fund.
Yeah, is where it's coming from.
So,
That's where that's
again,
been feeding
six,
from.
we're taking out of one or out of the other, but,
Peter to pay Paul.
Yeah, it's approximately $3.4 million that's come out of that by the end of this fiscal year.
So this 670 number that I've heard a few times, that would be like the 115 plus the 555 is coming up, is the 670, right? Yes. If my math doesn't fail me. It's the 115 for those two positions, and then another 555,000.
yeah, because it was 74 and 25 and a few
Right?
other things.
And that totals the 670, if that's what we want to reduce our budget to tonight.
Can I offer a comment?
Yes, please, Mr. Delaney.
I just did there's a couple of things here at play. If this conversation was a month or two ago, I'd be a lot more comfortable, but
Right.
you're facing a deadline to try and get this budget done. You're facing a deadline for getting an approved budget to the state for approval, for us to advertise and get this out in time for the fiscal town meeting, financial town meeting. Let's assume, for example, you say, okay, reduce the budget by another $555,000. It feels like fiscal chaos in the sense of who's going to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that as the interim town manager, I have the authority, even under the charter, to arbitrarily rearrange town budgets in a manner of a week or so. I mean, that's a prescription for disaster. I'm not sure where you're heading with this, but I understand the pressure about percentage points and the perception of it, but the reality is you're going to create a disaster here with this cut.
We actually have less than a week because we've got to send the paperwork into the state, and then we have the time constraints of the 10 days before the FTM, and so we have a couple of days, and that would be it to come up and make these cuts throughout the budget.
Just one other footnote. I mean, the topic of the raises is out there. The heart and soul of this building is hurting because of what I perceive of a lack of recognition, which in some small way comes from a modest increase in a paycheck, which hasn't happened in at least a year or two, as Ed had outlined before. I can respect the positions that are presented here, but I just don't know how we're going to pull this together in a matter of a couple of days. If you even you can say, great, do 550,000, do the reallotment. You're talking people, you're talking just collapse of some of the basic systems that we have here. I'm not quite sure the impact is really appreciated at this point. For the sake of a percentage point, I understand the political pressures. I can sort of speak freely because I know I'm not going to be here long term.
Speak freely anyway.
And I mean that in a very respectful way. I mean, I just find it very disheartening to think that somehow we got to pull this together in the next couple of days.
Yeah. I know that this is the night we have to hash it out. Again, we had the budget presented to us. It was hashed out with the directors and our former town manager, and it's put before us as is, minus the 115,000.
We did not spend nearly enough time on the budget this year.
We did like 4 different meetings and four different brackets.
Glenn, they turned into town council meetings
After we were done.
If you time on these videos how much time we spent on the budget versus how much we spent on the council meetings, you're going to be surprised at how little time we spent.
Well, there's a reason for that.
Why?
But
What's the reason?
We had the questions, anybody that wanted to ask the directors questions,
and
everybody had the opportunity
to. One night.
Everybody had the opportunity to ask directions.
Didn't.
And then the meeting goes longer, and I don't want to comment why.
The meeting shouldn't go longer if we
We're
would
back
have
to
dedicated
the issue at hand, Mrs. Carlson, the issue at hand. Now, we're talking about 115, all right, and we are under a pressure cooker, and I agree. These major cuts, I'm not for. And everybody's got their own idea of cut. So let's continue on with our discussion as we come up with a figure as to what we want to cut and what we want to approve tonight, so that we can make the timeline and get it advertised.
Do you have any cuts that you wanted to make to help with the numbers?
I personally comfortable with the 115 cut.
And that's it?
That's personally me, yes. All right? Because I went with the manager's recommendation and the director's recommendation.
Well, no offense, but the last manager wasn't qualified to do this.
Well, all right, that's your opinion. All right, and again, there's your applause, audience. All right.
I'm not doing it for applause. I'm doing it because now we're in trouble.
Well, then let's get to business.
Yeah.
Instead of just doing innuendos. What do we want to cut?
Actually, I'd like to...
Yeah, that's a good one. Freaking jerk. Yeah.
Glenn, can I?
That's a good. Yeah, go ahead. Did you have comments? Go ahead.
Yes. Under DPW, 880, vehicle maintenance, we have maintenance communications equipment. I know it's some sort of a radio equipment, and it appears, I did ask about it before, because that's up 422%. It's for some radio equipment, $20,910. It's supposed to be a phased program over 4 years. That didn't come before council. We don't know anything about it. Is that something that we could eliminate, the 20,000? Because I don't even know over the 4 years what the cost will be. Could we eliminate that?
Well, those radios did come in front of council. They did. This has been ongoing for a couple of years. This has been, I don't know if you want to speak on that, DPW Director. I do remember them coming in front of the council.
Mrs. Bacon, this was mentioned at our budget hearing. Currently, we are on low-band radios that were hand-me-downs from the police department. We can't get them fixed any longer. We are starting to phase in a certain amount each year in order to get us to the high-frequency bands that the police and the state uses. This current year, we purchased 12 radios. We were looking at purchasing 12 next year. We still have the 12 that we purchased. We still have to pay the monthly service on those, and that's also for repairs to the radios and for the tower that we have up at the Reed Schoolhouse. So it's cutting out 20. It means you're going to decimate all of our communications, and that's important, especially during the wintertime and when the people are out there in the western end. So we tried phasing it in. It's under through the industrial communications. It's something you asked about at the hearing, and we thought we explained it at the hearing.
I asked about it,
so
but
I'm curious why you want to just cut it out now without.
Well, because, I'm looking at all of this in here,
Yep.
and we have some financial issues, but this is something that a presentation did not come to council. I don't ever recall you saying we're going into this, purchasing all these radios, and it would have been nice to have the IT director also look into it and get his input.
Yeah. Once again, this was brought before the other, former town manager.
It was at a budget hearing,
it was
but it was
before
never a presentation to
It
the
was
council.
brought before the town manager because
Which
it was
he did
under.
not bring to council.
Once again, I can't speak for his actions. Again, this is for communications for the trucks. If you want to cut this year's allotment out, that's fine, but it's not 20,000. We'd still need to leave 9,100 in there just to cover the maintenance of our existing, the ones that are still working, our tower, and for the monthly charge for the ones that we did purchase.
Okay, then, perhaps we could do that, and then we can really look into it, have the IT director look into it also, and find out more, and we could present it to council. That would be great.
Eventually, you still have to spend the money, so, yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
What you looking at? 11?
Determine that. I've got 810, which is the engineering. It looks to me like there may be an error with the group insurance and the Delta Dental. We have one employee in there, and we're looking at group insurance of nearly $16,000 and $956. I think that's an incorrect number. 810. Which, and again, not knowing the individual things, but my estimates would be if I went by what other employees were getting, that we could reduce 12,728 and 652 approximately, out of there. It just seems to be, it seems to me to be an error. Again, 810, it's the group insurance and Delta Dental on 810. It seems very high to me for one employee. Whereas other employees, actually, Ed, I think I went back to your department to see, what the Delta Dental generally was for, like about, you have two employees and the,
There's one on it.
what's that?
There's only one on it, and the group insurance is a single coverage, that's it. I don't take any type of medical or dental.
Okay, all right. And again, I'm just questioning that. It just seems very high to me for that. And I don't, again, looking at other departments, I don't know who's on it or not. Another one for one employee.
I mean, if you're buying a family plan on a COBRA, Blue Cross,
Yep.
you're talking $1,800 a month. So it's not that out of line when you look at 12 months,
Well, again, I think the town gets a little bit.
That's in line with ours. A single plan is an $8,000 hit to the town. Family coverage is somewhere around that, so that is in line.
Okay,
When
because.
these are done, when this budget's prepared.
Yep.
The overall rate is put into a matrix and it flows down to
Yeah.
these based on the numbers and stuff.
All right.
So it would have, unless it was overridden,
Yeah.
those numbers would be correct.
Okay, again, it was a question. It just seemed very high to me for one employee.
What salary and benefits are we offering to a new town manager? How much?
That's up to you.
No, but have you put anything out there?
Yes, it's posted at the existing rate.
120.
You will find probably limited interest, given that it's at the existing rate, because I think the general market here is lower.
Let's listen to that, so.
So we're at 115 plus 11. Is that the most recent ones?
I've still got all of the other ones still in there. I
Yeah.
don't know what you want in, what you want out.
Right.
Can I ask, Nick, why there is an increase in, town solicitor of 15,000 over last year? Are we
I
getting
did-
more lawsuits?
I did not request an increase. If you want to take 15, that's fine with me.
Can you, okay.
Is that not for the negotiations with our other attorneys? Is that going to be covered?
Well, it is covered.
If that's true, Graham never consulted me about it.
No, I mean, but you know who we have working for us, is that?
Right, there are
that
other
amount? Okay.
attorneys who serve
All
as
right.
assistant
I'm just
solicitors,
asking.
mostly for labor
Okay.
issues.
Yeah, labor, right.
But I was never presented with, no one ever asked me if I thought it was a good idea to put $15,000 extra in, and if you want to take it out, take it out.
Thank you.
Because it looks like your projected expenses, we could take that out. Have you looked at your line item?
I don't have it in front of me,
Oh.
but I'm happy to look at it.
410.
410?
Yes, sir.
Let me see.
And that's including like Pierce Atwood, no, Karen Grandy, right? A landfill attorney, all the extraneous people?
410. 410.
I'm seeing 440.
410.
Oh, number 410. Yeah. I'm looking at the 410.
Isn't that 410 right there?
Yes,
Okay.
410. Correct. Yeah, 15,000, there. And it may have been for the, the labor issues that
Well,
he had,
that's
that
what
he
I thought
added
he
to it.
figured he did.
It's okay.
If we can cover it.
That's okay.
I honestly don't know why that's in there. And,
Ed, would you type in pro bono into that thing, please?
Okay.
Are we time for a motion to,
Here's an easy.
we have more cuts? Yep.
So the 115 is the two positions. The 11 is the same cell phones or something.
The 11 is a radio cut.
Radio cuts, yeah. Okay, and then the 15 is our very capable town solicitor's budget.
And again, we don't know what we might be spending on cell phones, correct? That we could maybe reduce that too? If they've got radios in their cars for DPW, we wouldn't we don't need cell phones?
There are very few people over in DPW with the cell phones. The ones that have them are typically out of their vehicles a lot.
Mike.
I know.
Michael.
I know. They're out of their vehicles a lot. They're around. They're one of the maintenance people during the daytime has one. Our safety officer has one. Our DPW director has one, and a couple of the foremans have them out of there because they're in and out of the vehicles and stuff. There may be, and I've got one in. I believe I've also got one in the office for being able to text back and forth with the various, with anybody that's got even their own cell phones. They do a lot of texting back and forth on that because sometimes they don't want it going out over the radio.
Okay, thank you.
But then we've got all the other various departments. My cost on the cell phones for the muni side is usually less than, it's in the ballpark of about $900 a month on those, give or take. They're all on a shared plan. We use a very small data plan. I'm only running 25 gig for nearly 30 phones, I think it is, that we've got on the muni side, all total. We've got some that are in hibernation right now. They go into play during the summertime when we have the security people for Parks and Rec moving around. We've got, we also, for each of the leaders for the different groups that are doing the programs, so they've got connectivity. So those go in and out depending on the time of year. We've got the phones, we just activate them, shut them down when they're not needed, and we do it that way. And we, so we I try to reduce the cost as much as possible, and only have the ones out there that we need to have out there. The PD has theirs, and they are a little bit more. But they do a lot more with them. They do a lot more on the data side, photos, stuff that's going back and forth between officers, detectives. So they've got a little bit higher expense on there. But the 90 that you mentioned is nowhere near that kind of number.
Well, we can't cut radios out of DPW and then turn them on and cut the cell phones out of them too. There have to be some communication.
I thought the number I was given was incredibly outrageous, so I was just trying to verify it.
That would be. 90,000 would be absolutely outrageous, but it's nowhere near that.
Okay.
You want to add some more?
Yeah, the other two things that I had discussed, maybe out of the contingency fund, which is going to 50,000, and then on that retirement coverage, which we added 50,000 to, which is still questionable. There's no, I haven't heard of any retirements. Have we heard of any yet? Are we preparing for any retirements this year?
Who could go? We've got several people that are
that could, but nothing
pushing that age. Well, we lost a couple this year that we
Yeah.
weren't expecting.
Yeah.
And they suddenly decided to.
Yeah. And again, but that's in the general fund.
So
950.
You're going to reduce it by 50?
Yeah, 950. It's like, we could reduce it 100,000 by taking 50 out of the contingency and 50 out of that retirement coverage, which is.
It's just 50 out of the contingency? I thought it was 125.
Well, I adjusted it back, in case, if we want to go higher than that, we certainly can.
So can I kill the 250 and we can add these in separately? Is that what?
What is it?
Can I kill the 250 and the 148 and add these numbers in separately so
Yeah,
we're a more realistic number?
Yes, exactly.
Hey, Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion.
Okay.
I think we've done a lot of cuts. You still got more cuts to do? I mean,
I think,
all right, I'll wait till you finish the cuts. I've got a few.
yeah, I think
that I agree with.
right now, and I don't know what Ed has up there on the chart, but
50 on contingency, 50 on what?
is that going to be cut by 50?
Yes.
The retirement. The retirement.
And retirement cut by
Yeah,
50?
well, yeah, this retirement, that's the one that he was trying to ramp up, but
Yeah.
we have no way of.
We've had 3 so far this year that have gone out
Yeah,
since
but-
January 1.
There's no way to follow, if no one retires, that 50,000 can't go to next year. There's not a fund that can move on. It has to be.
If they create the correct kind of fund, I believe they can do that
Yeah.
and force it.
But they don't.
It hasn't been, but it doesn't mean if it's put in there, they can do that during the course of the year and get it.
Well, let's ask us, Mr. Solicitor, would you have the answer to that thing? Could we, what the manager was looking to do was to ramp up these retirement funds, which I don't have a problem with, but the way it was explained was that if someone didn't retire, the $50,000 in essence would not carry forward on a special reserve type fund to pay for future retirements. Would we legally, could we set, could the manager set up a separate fund that could carry these funds forward, not as a surplus, but in other words, it's a fund which would go towards a future liability, in essence, is what we're doing. And I would, in other words, if that was the case, but I've got a question, which is why I'm saying, all right, well, I don't want to not use it and we spend it on something else, or just go back in. If we're going to use it and be budgeting it for that specific purpose, I would like it to be used for that purpose, not necessarily in this year.
Section 8.20 of the... Section 8.20 of the Charter, which is entitled Lapse of Appropriations, says that every appropriation except for capital expenditures shall lapse at the close of the fiscal year to the extent that it has not been expended or encumbered. So, I think...
In essence, wouldn't, encumbering it for a future liability?
I don't know if you can do that.
I don't know. We'd have to get an accounting opinion, I guess, whether we do it. I mean, it seems like a smart move to put it away, but you can't ramp something up and be done at the end of the year because you're not ramping up. You just are adding to it. And with the question of, okay, who's retiring, we don't know that for sure.
If it hasn't been spent or encumbered, I don't know how you'd encumber it. How you would encumber it if you didn't have...
Normally, the only encumbrance we do is if we've got a bill from the previous year that's going to be, it'll be processed in July.
I mean...
It's usually short term, it doesn't pass through.
Right. It's a nice idea, but ultimately under the Charter, it's speculation, and the Charter doesn't allow for the carry forward of speculation.
Right, okay. Then I'm going to stick with
retirement.
Yeah, that's what it is.
So what are you going to drop to?
Zero? 50. Yeah, zero. Yep.
Zero?
Yeah, there was one, because there's no confirmed retirements which are happening,
Zero for the year, okay.
Yeah.
That's the 116, the second one from the top, retirement.
Yeah, account 950 in the general town general, and it's retirement coverage. That's what it is.
Okay.
So we're adding that, and then you've got the 50 from the contingency fund up there as well too.
50 on contingency, 50 on retirement.
Okay.
We have 51,866 on the lease, 25,855 on the position increase, 74,000 for the 2.5 admin increase, 115, and then 11 and 15,000.
Yeah, I'm not for dropping the 2.5%. I mean, I don't mind dropping 0.5% on the the admin increases. I think again I don't think 2% is again it rewards the people for being and 0.5% will save us a little bit, and it'll still give the people a just my opinion.
How much did you calc it out on the cost?
It would be a difference of about $15,000, I believe.
No, I won't have to bother. I'll take your word on it.
Can you go over those again? You said something about 51,000 for the lease.
51,866 on the lease vehicle proposal to remove the lease vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not for that either.
Yeah, and that...
I think we shouldn't
Does
put
that-
all this together.
Does that...
Well, that's why they're all separate.
Does that...
Yeah, he's separating them up there.
Okay, thank you.
It's tough to see.
But does that add, when you, the 51,000 you take out, but do you add the 80 or whatever?
That's up to you, yeah.
Well, for the two vehicles.
That would be up to you to do that.
Well, you got to have vehicles. Yeah, it's one way or the other.
31,000 of that is for the police vehicles.
Yeah.
The other 20,000 are for various other vehicles throughout the town.
Well, again, you end up paying more and getting fewer vehicles if you take out the purchase lease.
And Ed, would you just once again go over one more time what you have down?
Right now
I can't see the screen from here.
Right now I have 115,021, so $115,000 for removing the two positions
out
of the budget. We have a reduction of $15,000 on the 2.5 admin pay increase. We have position increases that amount to $25,855.
What was that again?
What are those?
The position increases the ones where you would, anybody who is getting something, getting a reclassification. Is that still in, or are you taking that one out of here?
No, I mean, if they're getting
you're going to vote on them anyways, but that's still in there.
How much is that?
That is 25,855.
Take those up. I don't think we should go that one. Yeah.
The vehicle leases is 51,866. The contingency fund is 50,000. The retirement fund is 50,000. The radio cuts are 11,000. And the department, and Nick's cuts are 15,000, for a total reduction currently listed, 333,742, which amounts to a levy increase of 3.5, a tax rate increase of 2.33, and a change in the tax rate to approximately $21.47 a thousand.
Ed,
Yes,
let me ask you a question. You may not, you probably remember, a few years ago, Parks and Rec, this was probably maybe Guy, or Primiano at that point, they had money that they had to spend, just like we were talking, like Nick brought up. They had money in a fund, or funds, grants, whatever they were, that had to be spent. Is any of that money still around?
Are you talking about the agency? Are you speaking about the agency fund where a piece of?
I'm sorry, that's just like
Yeah,
a
if it's-
little bit
if
of fuzz in there,
it-
trying to remember exactly how that,
If it's the agency fund, no, that has been
Depleted?
brought back down. Well, it hasn't been depleted because money flows into it from.
not impact funds.
No, not impact.
No.
But it's a piece of all of the programs that they pay
Yes.
for, any of that.
Yeah.
That's the agency fund. That fund at one point was extremely high. That's been brought down over time. It's not sitting in there with any kind of big money anymore.
So it's not going to help her with the lawnmower or the truck or any of that stuff?
Off the top of my head, I don't know exactly what's in there right at this moment. I don't know if Raina does, but I don't believe it's that high.
But we've accounted for that probably already, right?
So we don't have enough funds there to support a lawnmower and the refuse truck. Then we would have no money for our programs, essentially. I
Okay.
think if we were going to go with that lease to purchase program, the funds to pay for that refuse truck were going to come out of that agency account, but not the lawnmower.
What is it, 15 in there now, thereabouts?
No, we were preparing for summer camp, so it's about 60 or so, but we expend that money every day, and there's other programs coming up that we have to pay for now.
Okay, thank you.
Every camper that signs up, a piece goes into that.
Oh,
And then we give back, like, for example, last fiscal year, I believe we gave $25,000 or $35,000 back to the general fund, and throughout the year, we get back 55 from our programs as well.
So do you have in your budget a lease to purchase?
No, I was not included in that conversation.
Okay, because all right.
I do not.
Okay, I've got a few questions actually on Parks and Rec, one list of questions, or I should say observations. Again, looking
Parks
at
and Rec.
Parks and Rec. Oops, sorry. Oh, you turned it on. Okay, thanks. That is 910.
Thank you.
Okay. A few of the things that I wrote down here. Again, advertising. Advertising is at, listed at $7,500, $7,516. Projected expenses this year are only going to go to $3,000. That's an increase of $4,500. With the, I would think with the social media, we could, and everything, I don't know what the increase was, Raina, for that. Did you know why the advertising jumped up? Is there something specific? And my apologies for not having that to you before.
Just increases in advertising costs, and that we're offering so many new programs. That's just one way. We do have a strong base that depends on the reminder to get their information.
Okay. All right, because I mean, like I said, over what we spent last year, it just seems like large increases.
You know, they said it's more than doubled. It's actually 150%
For
higher.
advertising?
Yep, from what the
That
projected expenses will be at the end of this year. You're projecting $3,000 in expenditures. The advertising, 910.
You say 716
No, yeah. Oh, that's over the, that's over what the other appropriation was. But if you go over a couple of lines further, we actually, this past year, will only have spent $3,000. I don't care what we appropriated, we didn't spend it.
Most of our, what we spend is for our summer camp and our basketball league and our summer concert series. So the bulk of our actual spending is the next few weeks.
What happened on these, on a lot of these with Bob, he trends them out based on the average monthly cost, which isn't always when a lot of money goes out the last couple of months for summertime advertising and stuff. It isn't actually a true projection of where they're going to be.
Well, that's what I'm
It's based just on an average monthly cost.
All right, well, that's what I'm basing my, my
Unfortunately, this is our
my question
busiest
on.
time to spend money,
Right.
so most of our
And
expenses
we
come now.
spent $68.40 in fiscal year 17, you know, $6,840, and that was 2 years ago. And again, I can understand why it's only three, but the big bills are coming in.
Yep.
So it probably will climb to 6 or 7 total for
Correct.
the year as we conclude the
Yeah,
end of.
from the time we got
Yeah.
there. Okay.
That's
all right,
correct.
I'm good. Also, I mean, another one that I'm seeing here is the repair of operating equipment. And I see a big increase there, but my question was, would have many of those repairs been happening on that truck that we have now taken out of service?
No, we just have been so underfunded, which is why we keep having to get rid of our equipment because we don't have enough money to repair not only the vehicles, but also other equipment that helps maintain our buildings and the fields and lawn mowers.
Okay. Well,
and
that
everything
one
else we need.
specifically says operating equipment.
Right.
You know, and that's
So
why
that's-
if the
We've always had to transfer money from different places. A lot of things have been ignored for so long, hence the condition of our buildings and our parks right now, our playgrounds. So we need that funding to support those activities.
All right, like I said, I was just, again,
I
searching for
understand.
places that I didn't, it didn't look like we've been,
We've just been so underfunded
we've actually
for
spent
so
money in
long.
those areas, and I know we've never transferred any of those additional monies, but, okay, I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, do we want to rehash again? I know, just for my benefit, we have the 115,021 is the two positions, right, Mr. Warzika?
Yes.
And then we have, was it 11,000 for the cell radio phones?
There's 11,000 for the radios.
Yeah, cut.
Yep.
All right, and then 15 for the town solicitor.
Correct.
What's the other 15 that you had mentioned for?
2.5% staff increase. Well,
The
how much?
reduction to a 2% increase from the 2.5.
Oh, I see, so instead of 2.5, it's going to 2, and that would reduce it by 15,000?
15,000.
Okay.
You also have the position increases on 20, almost 26,000 for the lease vehicles.
Well,
still
all right.
here.
Again, I know we have the 50 for the contingency fund and 50 for the retirement.
Correct.
And again, I don't know how much we want to change that 26,000 for the reclassifications of positions. I don't think I'd want that in. Are you okay with that too, taking that out? on
Yeah, I
reclassified?
think if they're classified, it's
They're
in
gonna
their,
be
it's
doing
in their
more
job,
work?
it's in
Yeah.
their job specs for changing them.
And unless one position hired, that's the 26, right? Was that what you're talking about?
The position increases of 25,855.
Yeah,
Correct.
and that was, okay, we've discussed that, so I think I wouldn't be in favor of keeping that in
Okay.
at 26.
Right.
And then the other one, what was it? The purchase vehicles. Now, again, that's the big, the big question. We take purchase vehicles out, you have to add the cost of vehicles, right? I mean, they need vehicles, police. Oh, I know, then they don't have vehicles. So I think I'd keep the purchase vehicle money in there. I'd take that 51 cut, because you're gonna save money this year and see how it goes. It's only certain agencies, correct? It's police and who else?
It's townwide.
There's 4 additional vehicles besides the police vehicles.
4 others besides police. And
They're all out of the DPW.
okay, so it's just police and DPW.
Correct.
All right, so that's the total of the vehicles, and either you reduce the 51 and don't go purchase lease, and then you have to add the cost of whatever the cost is going to be for the vehicles. So it's going to end up costing more. So that's not going to work.
Do we,
They need the vehicles.
I guess the question I have now is, the vehicles for DPW. Kevin, can you explain exactly which ones they are and how desperately you truly need them? Lease purchase or not, I'd like to know.
Yes. Just to give you a little background, as far as the lease, we've had some experience with this company, American Leasing, that we were leasing the sweeper through. So their average lease rate is around 4%, and that's what Bob Tebow had given to them based upon what the request for the department heads. I had requested 3 vehicles, and my request in 810, which is engineering, this would be replacing in 1997 Grand Cherokee we're spending about $3,000 this year on keeping on the road. We took the $20,000, town manager took the $20,000 out and instituted a $4,308 cost based upon the $20,000 anticipated cost for buying a used vehicle. We would not be buying a new vehicle, this would be a used vehicle. In 820, which is the building minimum housing inspector, we were looking to replace his 1998 Explorer with a used vehicle. We also allocated $20,000, which the town manager took out, and added in $4,308 based upon that $20,000 value. And in 830, we asked for a pickup truck, and that was to replace a 1998 two-wheel drive pickup truck with one new four-wheel drive pickup truck. And then in 840, we asked for the plow and sander to be put on that so we could put that into the fleet. The two-wheel drive does us no good in the wintertime at all. It just sits there. And it's falling apart. We've done body work on it. That body work has now got body work on it. And we spent $2,500 this year on that. So we're looking to put a frontline piece of equipment in that we could utilize year round. Can we do without it? We're just going to we can, be very honest with you, what you're doing. However, we're spending more money on trying to keep them on the roads.
So what's your total for the vehicles for the lease for 1 year?
4,308 for the vehicle out of 810, 4,308 for the vehicle out of 820, and it was approximately $7,000 for the vehicle in 830.
And then
about $15,000. It's only 3 vehicles that we requested. All 1997, 1998 vehicles that we bought used then. Their lifetime is gone. So we are getting well beyond what I know the Colonel uses. He's only got a 4-year lifespan. Ours, as you can see, we put on 15, 20 years.
Thank you.
Did I just hear you correct? Are you buying used vehicles, did you say?
On 810 and 820 departments, we will be buying used vehicles, 2 to 3-year-old vehicles for $20,000. Both four-wheel drive.
You can lease the used
yes,
vehicles?
Yes, as long as the lifespan of the vehicle does not exceed what the lease term is going to be. So when we spoke to the leasing company, he said if we're buying a vehicle that's 2 to 3 years old, it would be eligible for leasing. If we were buying a 5-year-old vehicle to a 6-year-old vehicle, it would not be. So when we're taking a 3 to 4 year lease on a vehicle that is 2 to 3 years old, it's within the time frame.
And okay, I do have a question
Sure.
for the Colonel. I'm sorry, Kevin.
Okay.
I'm assuming you're purchasing new vehicles, correct?
Yes, new.
Yours would be new?
Mhm.
Okay. I'm sorry.
With the package is, the vehicles run around $28,000, but it's the extra package to put the patrol data, radios, everything is all involved in that $48,000 number.
That's the total cost for one vehicle?
One vehicle to be totally outfitted.
48,000?
which is what we would finance.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Actually, Colonel, I've got a question regarding and again, actually, it might revolve around Kevin as well too. The vehicles in your department for the maintenance, et cetera, they're
Yes.
all outsourced. You have
We do.
no mechanics in the police department that take care of that.
We do. Years ago, I think they toyed with that idea, but it became just more cost-effective to outsource it. Our
Okay.
maintenance budget's around $60,000 a year.
Okay,
For-
I saw. We outsourced. The total cost was somewhere around, like I said, about $140,000.
Right.
My question to Kevin is: we've got 5 mechanics in DPW. Is there any way that we can employ them to work on police vehicles to save in that area? Likewise, we have school mechanics as well too. I mean, we're all working for the same people. I'm just again curious.
We had this discussion a couple of years ago when Mr. Hoover was here. We could, with the dollars that would come from what they have, we don't have the space. We'd have to put another door in because we only have one lift for our trucks. We don't have any of the specialized equipment for cars, especially the newer vehicles. All of our cars are 20 years old, so we don't need to have that new diagnostics.
Yeah.
And our people are not trained in that, so it would take quite the investment to have them all trained, get the diagnostic equipment in place, and to put another overhead door in with a lift for the cars. So can it happen? Yes, but the logistics never has been put together.
Okay. All right.
Okay.
Great. Thank you.
Colonel, sorry, one more. Are you also going with American Leasing?
That was originally the one that we would shop around a little bit. I think it makes sense to get as many vehicles on that lease program because I think we get a better interest rate if we have more vehicles that we purchase through them. So
Okay, so
again,
right now it's looking like 4%.
I think it was just under that we were quoted, but Kevin would know more than me. We didn't do it through them before, so
Okay, so you haven't shopped around yet to see
we
if they're-
haven't. But we'll have to come before council with any of our numbers. Of course, anything over 10, we would come before council with those numbers. So you get a look at those before we committed to anything.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
I've got a question. Sure. Yeah. Actually, it's Human Services, 925. Just curious, Mr. Oblad, we're obviously looking anywhere we can to try to find some things. With us moving over to the into the old GTEC building there for the year to 18 months. Are there any things that are being spent in the other building that will not necessarily be spent? Repair, I'm seeing, repair for fixed equipment. Is any of those items going to change at all?
At this point, everything is pretty fluid, so I'm not even sure what costs would be incurred going forward, other than the per square footage. The utility cost is included in the lease, which I think is a big benefit in regards to what the bottom line in cost out would be for next year.
So, well, what is, and I'm seeing repair the fixed equipment. Where, for instance, again, just wondering what is our fixed equipment? What does that entail for those repairs?
Well, at our present building, that is for any of the ongoing kitchen utilities, things like that, that we have we have to contract out for service to provide any of the, say, our dishwasher or any of those types of daily used items.
Will we need to do that at the new?
Well, we're going to have an active
location?
meal site, so
Yeah.
I think that those costs would most likely need to be in place, because we will have an active meal site providing meals to seniors throughout the 18 months that we're going to be there.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That's. I just want to know if there was any
There may be
potential
some
areas.
going forward. I just don't know
Yeah,
what that's
right, we
going to
don't
look
know.
like.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
We were also looking at some of those cost savings, such as the gas and stuff in areas there, to offset some of the cost on the lease, so it doesn't have to come out of the bond issuance.
Right.
So that's the other part of whatever was left in
Right,
there
I
was
remember
going
we
to go.
talked about the bond issue, et cetera, but I'm just,
Yep.
thinking
No,
on the
that's why I'm
operating
just
expenses, there's certain expenses at that building that we may not necessarily have at the new one. So, okay.
It's too late this year, but I really, before the end of, November, I'd really like to see what we're spending in electricity costs. And I know I was going to do something, and National Grid's been tough to deal with, and WED has been less than helpful. I really want to know where we are with that amount of money.
The last meeting we had with URI, that was in the hands of the manager on acquiring the new data and getting the data that we needed to do some analysis. If you like, I'll throw it on my list and I'll get a hold of them and see what I can do about getting that and getting you some numbers.
Where is it on the expense sheet? It's all in one place now, right? Because it's not separate by department anymore. It all came together 2 years ago?
Yes.
I'm missing it. I don't see it.
That'd be for the future anyhow, right? No, I haven't
but I'd
been
like to know
looking.
what we're spending now. No, that whole issue of looking into whether or not it's, I don't see it. I don't see a line item.
What? There are actually a couple of them in Town General in 950.
Oh, back there. Oh, sorry, I was up in the expense part. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's under the 44,100 line.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so
According to this, it's gone up 164%. Plus, we need to get a handle on this. It's been 2 years, over 2 years. Electric, light, and power.
The next line down shows a 38% decrease, so.
But we don't know
we gotta
why.
sort it through.
Yeah, yep. Thank you.
Okay, where are we? I think, Ed,
The board disappeared.
I'm just kind of wondering, the numbers I think most people are in agreement with are the 115,000, 021 for the two positions, the reduction of 15,000 because the raises go down, what, from 2.5 to 2?
2, yeah.
And then the radio phones, that's a reduction of 11,000. And then the town solicitors, 15,000. Contingency fund down 50 and retirement down 50, which my total comes up with 256,000. 000.
Well, I still got the
Leaving?
leases in there.
Yeah, leaving. I think I don't know on the vote, but I mean, to me, I'd leave the purchase lease in, so we get the, what is it, 3 police vehicles? Is it
3 and
3 and 3?
I think it's 6 altogether.
6
right?
altogether,
Yeah.
versus paying a lot more and getting only 2 police cars. Never mind DPWs. So I would say take that out and take the 26,000 out for the upgrade in personnels.
That's already out.
And that-
Down at 256,021.
Yeah, that's it. 256,021. Now, what would that do if that's the amount? And I mean, it's still open, but I'm just kind of wondering. In that, I think we're all maybe in agreement for that amount, 256,021, and more coming attractions if you wish. But what does that do on the levy and the percent?
That brings the levy to 3.62%.
3.62 levy.
So it's down 0.38%, and the tax rate increase is at 2.5%.
2.5% tax increase.
And tax rate of 2150.2, so
All right.
2150.
Okay, and what it does is it by reducing the 256,000, that covers any, let's say, additional or subtracting any money at the fiscal town meeting, financial town meeting. If we have that as a buffer, right, and let's say it goes up 180,000, whatever it is, it's still under, correct? Minus the sewer cost
I hate to say
situation.
it, you have $256,021 of wiggle room.
Right.
Before you hit the cap.
Right.
Yep.
That's what I'm asking.
Yep, exactly.
Okay, so that's where we are right now, and again, open for other suggestions of other cuts. Otherwise, I think that might be reasonable to bring it up for a vote on that. I mean, comments?
I still would like.
It's open. Any comments?
So God. The 15,000. I just have a hard time with somebody getting 17% and 25% raises when everybody else might get 2%. I just don't know what we can do with that. Are these promised raises that people think they're getting?
I'm assuming they are. I mean, I know the one in my office with Cody, the 4,600 was based on going and getting the additional.
Right, I know, I understand that.
The others, I'm assuming it is taking on additional duties. They are taking on.
Anyone else? You want to make a motion?
All right, well, I guess so. Well, I guess if we're not going anywhere else, I would love to see.
All right. I just have one other.
I'm asking.
No, regarding the phosphorus study that is going to be completed by the end of the summer, we have to take into consideration remediation and what that could cost. So do we want to really fool around with the contingency in case we need any repairs that need to be done? Because we don't have anything. Kevin, we don't have anything in that budget, right, for remediation?
The budget is.
Sorry. I think I asked you this and you said there wasn't anything.
The phosphorus study was totally into this year's budget. It's not going to be completed this year, so we took the percentage that is going to be completed this year, and I think it's 25,000 that's in that next year. That includes, the study itself is nothing to do with any remediation.
That's what I'm saying.
It's just a study.
And you said the study, when is the study supposed to be completed?
By the fall.
By the fall now, okay.
Well, it's September, sometime that time.
Okay,
yeah.
so if it comes back, it's going to give recommendations.
Correct, and this is only a study, so the recommendations we have to come back to you with a full-blown proposal.
Okay, yeah, and because this was something that the EPA and Rhode Island
Correct.
DEM requested
Exactly.
that we needed to do, so
But
that's what I'm...
there's no remediation to the study itself.
Oh, I know, but they're going to come back with possible...
And God knows what that could be, so.
Exactly, and there's nothing in here.
No.
If we have to remediate, we
we'd have to plan on that for the future years.
Okay, so.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. McGee?
Yeah, I've got a comment to make. Are we going to take these one section at a time? Because I don't know if we're up for a vote. I'm just wondering. Yeah, I'm just wondering why we're cutting everything out of the municipal side. We haven't even talked about the school yet. You know, and we're trying to make all the savings in the municipal side, and which is down to bare bones in the first place. So I think we need to look at the whole picture before we decide to cut everything out of.
Again, it's really the only place that we can go. I mean, again, we can talk about, again, total dollars. We can go individually on our side to only dollars on their
We're
side,
already a
so.
small percentage of the budget.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, if you're gonna, I personally, I think Mr. Shipley was close there about the cuts. I mean, there are probably some cuts with the positions and the contingencies funds and all that, but there's not a lot of wiggle room in the municipal side. I mean, I think we need to look at the whole thing. Unless you're going to make a motion for each section individually, that's fine, but.
Yep. We're
And
at
I know the
least-
schools are strapped, they can't afford to cut
Yeah.
anything with our budget that was presented to us. So, and they're asking for more than what we got. So we have to take that into consideration. We can't save everything by the municipal
Oh,
side.
no, that's what I mean, and that's why we're at a point here where it's 256. And the discussion was almost putting 50,000 back, or money back, if there was gonna be something needed in the contingency. So, again, with the one thing that, if the, if it calls for moving the enterprise fund or that GO bond over, we have no, we have no room there. We're going to the state, for any approvals there. I'm prepared to move it to let's move it to the people. And in all honesty, if the people got something else to say at the FTM and it goes a bigger up or down, then, we abide by what they want. If we feel this is comfortable enough to move to them on the municipal side, let's do it. They said they have the ultimate say.
Well, maybe we should discuss the school side of this before we do take any votes.
Well, I mean, we're decimating the municipal side here, and like I said, I know the schools, they're already maxed out. They're asking for more. So I think that'd probably be a good idea.
If we can find places to cut, I would hope they could too.
Well, we can't do that, unfortunately. We have to just give them the budget.
Give a total.
I think it's, like you said,
I mean, we could do a total.
But I think those cuts you offered are good, but I'm concerned on the radios. I mean, we're looking at a 2 cents, per thousand. We have money invested already, Kevin. Do we already have money invested on the radio, a maintenance program and everything? I mean, I don't know if I'm a little confused.
We do have it on our current radios. I thought I had my mouth was big enough also.
You might want to just sit down in front.
I mean, I want substantial savings, but I mean, if we're talking...
Yeah, the radios that we had proposed are for replacing our antiquated radios that we have now. The reason why we have to do a lot of texting is because we can't get through on some of the radios, especially when we go beyond central Coventry. We still need the 9100 in there for the maintenance and for our monthly charges if we didn't buy another radio, and hope that we did not have any breakdowns of radios that we can't repair.
Now, that 9100 in maintenance is for your existing antiquated radios.
Correct.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, the additional money we asked, the 11,000, was to put the next phase of the next 12 radios into play.
And then you'll get rid of whatever the junk ones you...
Yeah, we're going to...
And what is the savings on that, you said? Was 15? Yeah, I mean, what is that?
It's 11. 11,000 is the savings.
But you said this is 4 phases, correct?
This is 4 phases. We've only done one. This would be phase 2 of 4.
And we don't even...
2 cents per thousand.
It's currently 21,502. If I take out the 11,000, it moves up a half a cent.
Oh, I know, but
okay.
it's an ongoing, so we don't even know the cost for the
Oh,
additional.
Well, we
know
know
the
half a
cost.
cent next year because they're going to do it in phases, so it'll be another 11.
Well, we don't.
We know the cost, ma'am.
Okay.
It depends
But
on-
did you run it through IT to see if everything is working? So the
Once again,
radios that the police have, that repeater
it
doesn't
has
work?
It's nothing to do with it. It's a 900 series radio system. The police are 800 series. There's basically no more room on the state level for the 800 service. We've gone to the 900 series radios, the high frequency radios. It has nothing to do with the phones. This is a radio system for intercommunication between. It doesn't have, this has the towers. It uses satellite towers and doesn't use the actual towers that we have here at Reed Schoolhouse, which is the low band radios.
Mhm.
Okay, so
I just find it seems very costly. That's why I'm just
they're about
asking.
$600 a piece. Yes.
Pardon?
They're about $600 a piece just for the radios.
And did you negotiate that? I mean,
Yes, we
did you
did.
you negotiated that?
Yeah. It's on an NJPA.
And the maintenance and
it was-
everything,
it was
because
on-
that's the whole thing. Like I said,
It was under the
didn't come before
$10,000.
council, and I really would like to have a presentation to council so we can see and we can ask all of our questions.
Absolutely.
So that's the reason why I'm saying we need to. I want to eliminate that right now so we can have a full presentation to council.
Not a problem.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, where are we? Did you, I think, are we ready to vote one at a time? Is that what you wanted to do, Mr. McGee? And
Well,
all right, well,
I mean,
we want to talk about school?
We can't micromanage schools like that. So, I mean, they asked us the amount, we can cut the money out, but.
I mean, but if we don't,
Right.
yeah.
I see, right now, we've been told they have to cut $1 million, and if we do not give them the additional $350,000 as they requested, they're going to have to make those cuts as well. So I can't see, unless somebody wants to recommend another cut besides the amount that we're going to approve, you might want to leave that to the financial town meeting, where the people want to cut even more than what we're going to approve under Mr. Waters' recommended budget to the school.
I'm not recommending cutting anything more out of the schools. I just think it's difficult for us to try to balance this budget by cutting on the municipal side.
I know. That's why we're down here to 256.
Yeah, I mean,
Again, we certainly can't go in with with a cap at with the budget at a cap. There's no room to move, and again, no room, and it still doesn't leave any room for that. But again, I will. I mean, I don't know why we're not taking just vote on this one, get it done, and then go to the school. I'll tell you right now, I'm not for cutting the school's budget to any further. I considered trying to add back the requests that they were having, and I can't see in doing that. I think leaving it where it is, they got a $1.5 million increase. Grant, we'd like to get them more, but in this situation, especially if we have to go to the state for additional monies, it's too difficult.
Well, that's my thought also. I can't say it's cut, but I can't justify giving it back, especially when we're doing this to the municipal side. It's tough.
And the SRPs, we don't know either.
Well, there's a lot of factors that are going to be pending, but we'll handle them as we.
I know. Okay, Mrs. Carlson.
I have a question, and maybe it's just getting late and I'm tired, but if we cut $50,000 out of the contingency fund, we negotiate the IBPO, where's the money going to come from?
Well, I guess we have to negotiate it somewhere underneath what our contingency fund is, don't we?
Well,
Again, wishful thinking, maybe? I don't know.
Real wishful. I mean, it always, not that I don't want to take it down,
but... It still leaves $175,000 in the contingency fund.
Because last time I know we needed 167,
and the approved budget last time was 96. So I mean, we're still.
No, but I mean when the contract got done last time, I think this year we needed 167.
Yeah.
167,000 for the difference. That really, if say for instance it was 170, God forbid, and we only have 175 left. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, if it was,
so then we have like
$5,000
$5,000 for contingency,
proposed
and Kevin
225.
has 14 snowstorms. We sure thought we were going to skim past snowstorms this year. We didn't. I don't know. I don't have answers, but I'm just, I don't know, uncomfortable.
I mean, we're stuck with trying to make it affordable to the taxpayers. I get it,
It's a rock and a hard place for everything. Very difficult decisions here,
And we should not go anywhere near
There's no
4%.
Right.
There's got to be something we can do. I'm sorry.
Well,
Tonight at the last minute, we're trying to figure this out, and this has been a bad budget season.
Well, at this point, I mean, I'll make a motion that we approve the municipal budget with the amendments that we have made, which is what, 256?
Can you just go over one more time?
You want to do one at a time?
Yeah.
They want to vote on each one.
Yeah, that's fine. That's the municipal one. That's right. That's great. That's all I made the motion on that one.
But the cuts, you want to make that, you want to go over them one more time. You got those?
Yeah.
The current cuts listed are 115,021 for the removal of the 2 positions, $15,000 to reduce the admin pay increase from decreasing from 2.5 to 2%. A contingency fund decrease of 50,000. The retirement fund decrease of 50,000. The radio cuts are in there at 11, and the 15,000 from the solicitor's budget. For a grand total of 256,021.
And that gives us a levy and a tax rate of?
It gives us a tax rate of 21.502, so 2150, and that is a 2.5% increase over the existing rate.
That's residential.
That is residential.
What's our I'm so sorry. What's our commercial rate?
I would have to count that out. It's going to be, it's it's only gonna be a little bit more than this one has been. I didn't count those out at this point. I was getting this one ready, and I
Okay.
didn't have time.
And then the
other-
levy?
The levy is at 3.62%.
3.62. Yep.
Okay. Go high unless anybody else wants to cut me. Why don't we then, unless,
Well, I made the motion
right, but
with the amended cuts. If
you want to
anybody
take them
wants
one
to-
at a time then, on the vote?
Yeah.
Is that what we're doing?
Yeah, one at a time. Yep.
Okay, so, the motion to cut the 115,021, removing those two, needed positions, but the time is not right. Do I have a motion to make that cut?
I make that motion.
Oh, we'll go on the individual things as opposed to the total dollar amount?
Yeah, that's what they want to do.
Yep.
Is that all right?
Oh, I thought.
The total is the total.
Yeah.
Do we have to do it individually? Because, I mean, it's all the same.
I think it would be best this way. I mean,
Okay.
Wouldn't it be more beneficial
okay.
if you put both the item you're voting on and the dollar amount? So there, I mean, that's
I
how
did.
we've been talking about it all.
I just
all
did
night.
for the one.
Yeah,
Oh, I
do it
thought
for
you
each
wanted
one.
to take this, I misunderstood.
It must be getting late.
We're
I'm
talking
sorry.
about a total dollar amount.
If we-
You know, then.
I'm gonna. I'm
I'll
just gonna
remove-
listen.
I'm gonna remove my motion because I wanted to do it for the total amount, so
Well-
I'm gonna make somebody else make a motion that we'll do. I prefer to see just the, you know, if we're at
All
a
right,
dollar
we want
amount, we're at a dollar
individual
amount.
motions on each one? Because, I mean, it's going to add to the same total.
Well, it may not.
All right, if we don't approve them, you're right. Okay.
What-
All right, so the motion is for the 115,021 reduction, 115,021 for the removing of the two positions that, what? Under
HR.
Yeah, right, sewer and HR. Right. Do I have a motion to that effect?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that's approved. Now, a motion to approve the reduction of $15,000 for the administrative raises that will go from 2.5% down to 2%.
So moved.
All right, do I have a second on that $15,000
Second.
reduction? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
Okay, was that 4 ayes?
Yes.
Mrs. Carlson, 4-1, okay, on that one. All right, a motion to reduce $11,000 for the radio phones for DPW.
I make that motion.
Second.
Okay, motion made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 I'm opposed.
Opposed? All right, that's 4-1. All right, a motion to cut the town solicitor's budget by $15,000 per Mr. Gorham. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. A motion to reduce the contingency fund account by the $50,000.
So moved.
Do I have a second? Do we have a second on removing that contingency fund? No second?
Let it die.
I mean, I'll,
Let it die, if there's no second there.
all right.
It's going down. Put it back
Okay,
in.
that's 50,000. That didn't carry. I had a motion to remove the $50,000 under the retirement account.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0 on that one. So, the 206,000 now, right, Mr. Warzika? 206,
021.
021,
A tax rate increase of 2.61%.
2.61 tax increase,
A tax rate of 21,525 on the residential.
21,525 25.
which is a 55 cent a thousand tax increase, and I think I covered everything.
The
The
levy.
levy is 3.69.
What is it, 3?
0.69 on the levy.
69.
Which is the tax?
Tax is 21,525.
And what's the rate?
That's the rate, 21,525.
No, I'm sorry, the
Tax
percentage.
increase?
The percentage increase is 2.61. It originally started out at 3.06.
Right, yes.
Okay. All right. Anything else? Yes.
I'd like to make a motion to consider removing the lease to purchase for all town vehicles, but make a motion to put a lease to purchase for the police vehicles. So I'd have to do
So no
it two
new
motions.
vehicles?
No new vehicles except for
Police.
the police vehicles.
What does that do for us?
So you want to take off 19,000.
So 19 or 15?
It's 4, and 7. It's about 15 something. 15.6.
Yeah, I thought it was like 15,000.
Yeah, 15.6.
18,201 off.
What?
If we remove the other vehicles.
I thought it was.
We want to keep the police ones in, the
Yeah.
31,665, and we're going to take out the other 3 vehicles in plow and sander, which is 18,201. That moves it to 224, 2.57 tax increase, 21,517 on the tax rate, a levy of 3.67.
What? Oh, levy, sorry.
It's-
Huh?
What's the tax percentage?
Tax percentage is 2.57. Give or take when we actually run this through the system.
Right, okay.
What was the projected dollar amount? I didn't write that.
Yeah, you didn't give us a dollar amount on that one.
The reduction?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, 18,201?
No, I meant the total, the tax rate, on which is it gonna be down 20,
It'll be the tax rate is
21,520, okay.
517.
517 for that. I mean, you're not even talking a penny.
It's not much, and then you'll have 3 less vehicles.
And we want the streets plowed.
Yeah.
Well, they are being filed.
This program we're doing, again,
It's saving us a lot of money.
they're buying used vehicles. We don't know that. We haven't seen.
They're not buying plow.
They're not buying plows, right?
You
They're
know,
buying a couple
trucks to
pickup
do-
trucks,
we're doing
a couple
truck-
pickup trucks.
Yeah, but plow, we're gonna put plows on them, and short the plow with.
One of the pickups was a plow and sander.
One pickup with a plow and a sander, yeah, that was.
How big is the truck?
Pickup truck.
Yeah.
350.
What, a
probably,
350?
250, yeah.
They've got pickup trucks out there now.
Different
that they use
sizes.
on some of the smaller roads.
Right. Like the wooded roads in the western end.
You never last in a pickup truck at my end.
I don't know. Well, that was a motion. I guess you want to
Second.
stay with it, second? All right, all in favor of that
Aye.
motion? Opposed?
Nay.
Aye.
Nay. All right. So we're back to our two.
I have one.
06021.
206021.
I make a motion to remove the $25,855 for the position increases.
All position increases?
The $25,855 for the position increases.
The admin. Is that the admin?
No, that's reclassifications up there.
That's what.
That's the reclassification, or that's the percentage of raises?
So that would be in lieu of hiring another person. I'm going with the original recommendation. All right, you got that amount?
That's 231,876 is the amount, total amount of the reduction. The proposed tax rate with that would be 2.56. The proposed levy rate with that would be 3.65. And the tax rate would be 21.513.
Okay, I guess that a motion was made. Did we get a second?
Second.
Okay, those in favor of that proposal?
Aye.
Those opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Nay. Okay, so we're again at 206,021. Unless we have any other additionals. And if we don't, I think we can go on to the next, we have to adjust this now, don't we, Mr. Delaney, on the total amount, or who's gonna end up doing that one?
Well, that doesn't have to be done tonight.
We'll do that.
Oh, all right.
Yeah, that's just a sample of the resolution.
Got it. All right.
That'll be the sample.
Okay.
We'll make modifications on
Yeah,
that.
that'll be an
Get back
FTM.
to the president to sign.
Okay.
But you have to vote, all right.
Yeah, not on the
We
resolution. Yeah, we voted on, to approve that, and then they'll make up the resolution for the FTM.
Right.
So, all right,
Isn't
now
that
we,
what
now
we
we
have
got
to-
the,
We vote on that amount. Is it the others too?
no, well, we've got to vote on the school. Yep, got to vote.
All right.
vote on the-
All right, so this will be revised.
Exactly.
To vote on the that'll be the resolution.
Yeah, you've got a resolution. in
Right,
the
that's what I
packet tonight.
thought.
The numbers can be adjusted right now.
All right, well, that's what I'm
I
asking.
think you amend the resolution, excuse me, sorry.
You have to vote to pass it to the FTM.
Right.
Right, on each
Exactly.
section
Right.
though.
Okay.
So that's what I mean, we have to subtract that amount,
Thank you.
correct?
Yes.
That we have
Yeah, but
here.
he's, I think, Mr. Warzika can give you those numbers to plug into the resolution, and then we can do it right
Well, the
now.
taxable,
We could, I would prefer to just go over one more time, because we did this tonight, to get that all done. And I want to make sure that there isn't,
But you
it
have
won't
to-
be much, if anything, but I want to make sure if you were accurate to recheck it, but it's up to you. I mean,
Well,
they
they-
matched up, we checked it over, but I would just like to
Yeah,
double check, because this is not my primary job.
But you have to vote on a number to present to the financial town meeting.
And that's the numbers, and then, yeah.
If the numbers are wrong, I guess we'd have, if the numbers you give us tonight.
No, I'm not saying they are, I'm not saying they are.
All right.
I'm
All right,
saying they
so
are right.
the numbers we have tonight, we had section 1,
they've got to be,
the
That's
28.
the number.
That's,
It can't be wrong. Once you vote on it,
Middle
that
of
is
day,
the
okay,
number.
7:15 plus one.
Okay.
All right, so,
Okay.
so we got the 28,
Understood.
28,610,377. Then we'll just have to minus the amount of what? 206,021. And somebody can help me too.
Yeah, hold on.
I get 28,404,356.
8, 6, 10.
Correct.
Is that correct?
7.
Well, with the subtracting the 206,021, it brings it down to 28,404,356.
I have the same number.
Okay, so we're all in agreement on that one. Now, so are we voting each section, or do we just vote
Yep.
Yes.
total? All right, so,
now it's the schools.
With that-
Or municipal.
yeah,
On
but
the,
do we have to vote now
capital.
on the section 1? That we just changed it?
No, we just did. We just voted to accept it,
All right.
we just changed the number.
Okay,
I would vote each section separately.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So, we have section 2, I don't know, Mrs. LaVoy, do you want to read these, or?
Yeah.
I guess I can.
Don't you want to vote on section 1?
I thought
Yeah.
we just did, but.
No. I
No,
didn't
we
hear
voted
about
on,
it.
we voted on the proposed changes, amendments, I
Right.
guess. so
Now you're going to vote on the number.
All right.
Okay,
because-
so that's what I was asking. All right, section 1 is what we're voting on now. The amount is $28,404,356.
Okay.
Be appropriated from tax revenues, federal and state aid, and other revenues for the operation of the municipal government as set forth in Exhibit A, which is attached.
Okay.
All right, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. 3-2. All right, Mrs. LaVoy, why don't you be so kind to read section 2 to us, because I don't think that's going to change, right, Mr. Warzika? You have that?
That shouldn't.
All right.
The only number that would possibly would be their total operating, which I went off of, and I hope it is correct, otherwise we can fix it right now. Your total operating is, Sarah?
Yeah, total operating is.
Sarah, can you come up so we can hear you?
Good evening.
Good evening. Thought we'd be up here earlier. All right, so our total operating expenses is $70,625,677.
All right, so that's
70 million.
70625,677.
45,757,493 on the allocation from the town.
That's not what we have in our budget, but that, yes, if you can read that off one more time.
45,757,493. Did you have the additional 3?
Yes, we did.
I'm basing it on what they were going on,
Right.
so if they change it or they increase it, for that 40, that's the 757.
okay. So, thank you. With that change now, as far as the total, it's 70,625,677.
677.
All right.
The pertinent number, the 45,757.
Is the tax.
493 is coming from the
Tax levy.
tax levy.
All right, do we want to read that before we vote on it then? Mrs. LaVoy, will you read that with the change at the total?
Sure.
We need to add those two numbers together.
Yeah, the 70 million that I gave you is what we requested in our total operating budget. If you reduce that, then that needs to be reduced by
About
the
300,000 as well. All right, so it's just 325.
Well, is it 300 or 350?
So that's even 300 in there, correct?
We got,
46,
Mike, we can't hear you. Thank you, Sarah.
all right, let's get it right. What is the school budget?
Why are their numbers different? Why are their numbers different?
The 45,757,493 is the amount from the manager's recommended budget from the start. That's been the number that he put forward, and that's the number it looks like you're going to go with.
But you want our total operating 706.
Correct.
677. So our revised total operating budget would be 70,270,860. 70,270,860.
Thank you.
Where's the 69 million coming out on our,
That's with state revenue that they receive and.
They received additional.
They receive additional state.
but it tells us that their operating budget is 69 million.
What? Say that
Their
again.
operating budget is
Section 2.
$70,270,860.
All right.
45,757.
No, I'm
493
talking
is
the
what
total
comes
of those
from
two
us.
numbers, trying to add them. Hang on.
I did what two numbers?
$1.1 million, 100, no.
What two numbers are you
No,
trying
this
to
is
add?
The number
He said it's 45,757, and then it's 70 million. All right.
Oh, they don't have to add.
Yeah, levy, and that's their total budget. That's their total, yeah, that's their total budget.
The 45 not on top of 7.
Yeah, that's not, those don't add together.
No, you're right. What's the state? No, it won't add up. It's not the way it
It's
is.
not gonna add up, yeah.
Doesn't add up.
Because 70 million is a total operating
That's
budget.
their total
The
operating
45 million is what we're giving them in tax
That's
revenue.
what they're
The rest is coming from
Town.
state aid
Oh,
and everything.
yes, that's right. I'm sorry. That's right, and $22 million from the state. Okey-dokey.
Okay. All right, did we read that?
Yes,
Read
correct.
section 2,
That
please, Mrs. Lavoy.
$45,757,493 be appropriated from tax revenue for the operation of the school department, with $45,757,493 being the maintenance of effort. These funds shall supplement state aid to education grants and other school revenues to provide an operating budget of $70,270,860.
Okay, do we have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
I reluctantly will second it. I wish we could give them the more money, but we really can't.
I hear you. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Any?
Aye.
I guess that's 3-2. All right, section 3, Mrs. Lavoy, if you could be so kind. That doesn't change, does it, Mr. Warzika? Good.
That $5,000,000.
Here's the one that.
$56,423 in
No,
tax
nothing in
revenues,
capital.
interest earnings, and state aid be appropriated for the retirement of principal and interest on outstanding bonded indebtedness.
Okay, that was $5,056,423. Do I have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5-0. And section 4.
Actually, it's reversed. We just voted on the capital with the zero, did we not, or no?
No, not yet.
We just oh, okay.
Section 4 is Mrs. Lavoy, that 0 be appropriated for capital improvements. Thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okey dokey. Now, we go down to B, resolutions for discussion and/or action. And number 2, we have adopting the sewer budget for fiscal year 2018-2019. And obviously, even though we don't have any information until next week, I'd like to have that motion to table that matter at this time. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And thirdly, I have a motion, or it's a resolution appointing our Coventry Town Solicitor, Nicholas Gorham, as the moderator for the fiscal year 2018 financial town meeting. Do I have
So
a
moved.
motion?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? 5-0. Good luck, Mr. G. All right, motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Good night, everyone. Happy Mother's Day, if it fits the bill.